And there was a paragraph that stated that, well, the article was Homer Township clarifying false statements once again. The article concerned Trentina Farm. In the second paragraph stated that there have been concerns and false information regarding the clay fill gifted to the township. During a recent Village of Homer Glen meeting, Village Trustee Stylen brought these falsehoods to light. The constant lying to taxpayers about this subject needs to stop, and due diligence will be placed or bring correct information to the public on this matter. I do not know what falsehoods this paragraph is referring to, but any of you could go to the video of that meeting to the 2-hour and 24-minute mark and hear my comment. I made one comment, and that was I asked for an update or a report on the regarding the testing of the soil that's being placed on the 2 acres of property on our open space, and that's all I said. So I only like to bring facts to light, and I had never seen the geotechnical report or any report, though I did ask our staff engineer for one, and it had never been given anything. The township has published the report on their website. We now know that the soil came from a road project in Orland Park. I have photos of the project if anybody would like to see it. It's not what I visualize when I think about clean clay, but in construction terms, that is what they call clean clay, I guess. So I'm going to leave that up to the engineers. The roads, the borings had about anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of asphalt to 11 inches more of aggregate, and then some silty clay. So I'll leave that interpretation up to them. I only want to stick to the facts. And I did go to the township meeting to bring this to the township's attention since I was named. And Steve Ballich said that this was published and posted, was not written as intended. So I'm going to take him at his word at that. And also I'd like to make an announcement for Homer Glen is having, the Women's Club is having a garden walk on Saturday from 9:30 to 1:30. And we like to support the Women's Club because they support us. They provided the gazebo out here in the park, and they do a lot of other projects around the village. And their garden walk is going to support funds raised from that are going to go to Shady Oaks, the Legacy Ranch, and Will County Children's Advocacy Center. So everything that they do does benefit our community. That's my report.
Trustee Styler, did you have something to read from a resident as well?
Oh, yes. Well, as Sharon Squeeze and Sue Maloney, I believe, and Andy Pinelli mentioned about the Hadley Road project. This is posted, I believe, on our website now, and it is also being pushed out on Facebook. So, but please be advised that Will County Division of Transportation is conducting a public information meeting concerning the Parker Hadley Road project. This meeting will be held on Wednesday, July 26th, from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. at the Parker Road Bible Church, 18512 Parker Road. It says Mokina, but it's really right at the border of Homer Glen. The meeting will be conducted in an open house format with representatives from the Transportation Division to answer questions and obtain written remarks from the residents. So it was requested to say that it's very important that our residents attend to voice their concerns and opinions as this project will adversely affect the residents of Homer Glen and Homer Township. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Styler. Manager Morella, did you have something you wanted to add? No?
No, it's talking about the temperature in the room.
Oh.
I'm using sign language.
Sorry. Trustee Fialco?
All right. Homerfest. I know a few people have spoken about it already, but with Homerfest, there's no way that we can conduct Homerfest without first having the support of our state's attorney. I want to start there with our state's attorney, James Glasgow. By him supporting our local police department, by him supporting this village, and by working with Lieutenant Taylor and coming up with all the extra safety precautions that we came up with, and how we strategized that, how Lieutenant Taylor took the lead on that. That is what made it all possible. While other communities were shutting their fest down and their community gatherings were shutting them down, Lieutenant Taylor was taking the time to figure out how we could collectively stay open and protect the public by not penalizing the many for the infractions of the few. And you did a fantastic job, sir. Thank you very much. Moving down the line, after that part, we have an event staff that is composed of Glen, Elena, and Chris. And without them and their support, and this being their first round with Homerfest, I'm just amazed with this group, how they handled it from the beginning to the end, with this being the first time round. And thank you to your group, Jacqueline, Chris, and Elena. You guys have been on the committee, and I'll try to make this a little bit quicker than I'm going, but on the committee, we had 10 people. Debbie Stevens took care of everything to do with the carnival, all the little bumps and hiccups that we had with anything to do with the carnival. Debbie Stevens is the vice chair. I call her the godmother of the fest because she's been around so long and has taken care of so many things and has given me the insight as to the way things have been done in the past when I came in, and she helped me along all that way up until this past fest. But Debbie Stevens takes care of all the little things behind the scenes, stuff that goes wrong. Next on the list is Mike Carlson. Has he come a long way or what? If anybody heard Mike Carlson talk at the fest, he's like our Dick Biondi or our Larry Lujak of Homerfest. You were amazing, sir, and the way you handled that stage. Not only did Mike do all the talking on the stage, Mike took and he was the stage manager, making sure that the 3 to 4 bands a day got on and off the stage without a hitch. And like we found, every band had their little things. One of the bands wanted his tea and his pot of water and his cup and his lid. And so anyway, those kind of things get taken care of in the background by Mike Carlson. Tony Draga handled everything to do with liquor and everything to do with making sure that people were Bassett trained, making sure that we had everything in order, and was there. And the other thing is with this whole committee too, everyone here is volunteers. We're not professional fest committee people. We are doing the best we can do with the one time a year we do this, and with the knowledge that we've learned by working with the fest throughout the years. And this this is my third year on. But Tony handled all the liquor and anything to do with that part of the process with the organizations who then served the beer, and those organizations that then made money for their organizations. And then it came back to when, during that time, they also had the time where they had raffles. And then Mike Carlson, again, would call out those numbers. And so organizations were able to benefit from that part, and Tony put that all together. Ethan Fiala, I can't say enough about this guy. He's amazing. And yes, it is my son. But the thing is, when something was broken, whether it was the refrigerator truck for the beer and their people wouldn't come out, he was right there to work with Public Works and fix that problem. When it came time when the big skylight beam broke down, he paralleled his car into it to keep that running. Everything from the red, white, and blue lights on the outside of the tents to the inside of the tents. And then he was there at 3 o'clock in the morning when a generator broke down, and Jay Rohde was also your next Jay. But Jay, he was there taking care of everything to do with the electric and the security part. With taking the fence down, we had that security system in there that doesn't record people talking or anything like that. It's just another precautionary measure we took to help out Lieutenant Taylor had he needed. But Ethan took care of that. Mark Gowan took care of the whole layout, everything we discussed in committee. Mark Gowan took care of that, and he put that whole design together so anybody that looked at it could see the new wheel. And with that new wheel, we were able to give that to anybody, and they were able to make that kind of come together. So thank you, Mark Gowan, for that. Jay Rohde spent endless hours there taking care of the electrical part of the fest with the vendors that didn't have the right hookups, that didn't have all kinds of things that he needed to change and make those configurations work for what they had. Paul McCary took care of the information booth. He was there for endless hours, making sure that wristbands and everything were taken care of, and those volunteers that he was working with were up to date on how to do that. John Walters and Jimmy Shea took and over 8 hours a day took and escorted the bands in from the back. If anybody knew how this worked before and the way the bands parked in behind the tent before, you know that this process helped out a whole lot the way John was running it and escorting bands in and out and making sure that he was bringing them down the trails so nobody would get hurt. And it was quite the process and it went very well, so thank you for that. And Mike Bonomo on the Fest Committee. Not only did Mike Bonomo donate hundreds of dollars worth of equipment towards the fest, Mike Bonomo took care of the senior acknowledgement time. I was at a meeting for the township, and I had extended that olive branch and saying, why don't we have the seniors at the fest? And so from there, that developed. Mike put that all together, and then with the veterans acknowledgement, Mike Bonomo and Michelle Kerfin put that together to make that a success. So thank you everybody on the team for doing that. In addition to that, the other people that helped out tremendously were Carmen Morello, putting out fires every corner he turns around to help wherever there was a little issue. Vicky Bozen for taking care of the Pet Fest and that whole day. Dave Medina working behind the scenes, making sure everything was done. Mike Clausen helping out with every little thing where he could fill in. Jimmy Shea helping out John Walters with escorting the bands. Lieutenant Taylor, already mentioned, but Mike Gampel worked with him. That team, unbelievable. Dave Bricker from the fire department, Bill Frosser from building services, Ron Cuss from EMA, Jennifer Vittori from Parks and her team, and Brent Woods from Public Works, and Brent Porfilio from the Road District and his team of people that helped out with the parking. It goes on, and that is pretty much the list. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but thank you so much to everybody that participated in Homerfest and made it the success it was for 2023.
Trustee Reiners.
Good evening, everybody. I'm not going to take as long as he did. Just a few things, just a couple of changes. Also wanted to make everybody aware that there is going to be a craft market in Heritage Park this weekend on Saturday morning. It's the Red Bird Market, and they do crafts and different types of things like that. So, and there's going to be some cupcakes and different food vendors as well. So I wanted to bring everybody up to date on that. Also, there's a couple changes that have that's going on with the Parks Committee. We will be changing our meetings from 6:30 to 4 o'clock. So if there's anybody that's interested in attending our meetings, you will be more than welcome. We have one more meeting at 6:30, and that's our meeting this Monday on the 17th. And after that, the meetings will be held at 4 o'clock. We haven't had a Parks meeting in quite a long time, but we did have one last month, and we actually talked about a couple of things that we need to prioritize. We realized that we really need to do some more work in Heritage Park, that we need to move forward with some of the plans from the actual master plan of the park. It doesn't mean that we're going to be using tree architecture, but we are going to be moving forward. And I asked the mayor actually to attend for our meeting coming on Monday, and we actually had a conversation on how we are going to be moving forward with the Veterans Memorial. So it's still on the table. So we're not we're thinking of the veterans, but there's some things that we're going to have to do and work together to make that happen. So and also Jennifer Vittori asked me if I would give an update on the tennis courts. She said that the reason they haven't started on the tennis courts is because U.S. Tennis, who is basically the only organization out here that does these courts that we could get to work with us, is working on school projects. So schools that need their courts done, they are a priority. And she said that she thinks come August, we should see them start to work on our courts. So and with that, that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Reiners. Trustee Consolino.
Okay guys, bear with me. Environment Committee hasn't gotten to meet for the past several months, so I have a lot to report. We met yesterday for the first time in several months as we waited to get our committee appointments all done. So we're very excited about the new tree memorial program and we have already accepted our first applicant. All information regarding this program will be posted online over the next few weeks, as last night we just finalized all the details. Anyone wishing to participate in the program can look online in the future at our village website, or you can contact our village staff members, Melissa King or Taylor Darby, with any questions regarding the application. I would also like to thank the Parks Committee for their cooperation regarding this program, and I personally think that more trees and beautification do nothing but benefit us both. This month is also Plastic Free July. Please look up on the link on our village website for ideas on alternatives to reduce plastic usage. Plastic Free July campaign is a worldwide initiative to raise awareness of our growing plastic waste problem. Millions of people as individuals, schools, communities, and companies from 177 countries take part in this challenge each year. The goal is to reduce plastic waste. Please join our Plastic Free July campaign and refuse and reduce plastic usage. You can print out online our handy and printable plastic waste tip sheet for future reference, and you can also refer to our perforated list that was sent out with our April Spring Village newsletter. The environment and calendar dates for events that are coming up over the next few months include Homer Glen Lands Days, which will be on September 30th. Last year we had a really good turnout for this event, and we strongly encourage families to bring their children to assist in taking the time to join us in cleaning up one of our local parks and trailways. Information will be posted both on social media and our village website regarding the time and place in September. At our last event, we had a number of high school students participate, in which they were able to use the time to clean up to count for the required volunteer hours for school. So please keep that in mind. We also had a very successful stargazing event at Heritage Park this past May. Our village staff have had to step in more and more and go above and beyond with assisting with this beloved event. This event is not possible without our village staff, our Environment Committee volunteers, and our EMA staff. Stargazing draws more and more residents and non-residents each season and each year. It helps to set us apart from our neighboring towns, and it emphasizes our status as an international dark sky community. Our next stargazing event will take place on September 22nd. For those who are unaware, IDA, International Dark Sky Community, is a town, city, municipality, or other legally organized community that has shown exceptional dedication to the preservation of the night sky through the implementation and enforcement of a quality outdoor lighting ordinance, dark sky education, and citizen support of dark skies. Dark sky communities excel in their efforts to promote responsible lighting and dark sky stewardship and set good examples for surrounding communities. As of January 2023, there are only 201 certified dark sky places in the world. Homer Glen became certified in 2011 as the 4th community in the world to achieve this status, and is the only municipality in the state of Illinois to be awarded this honorable designation. Currently, the Environment Committee is also looking to acquire more information regarding EAP laws that are proposing stricter enforcement on PFAS and testings of our local wells to check for contamination. These proposals for hazard levels have not yet been taken into consideration or acted upon by our local governing bodies. Our committee is trying to acquire more information from the Will County Health Department right now regarding private well testing for the PFAS, the costs associated for the tests, and inquiring with Will County if they can help assist in covering the costs for these tests for residents concerned with PFA contamination. I'm going to skip this part because I don't want to be too long tonight, so if you want to look up what the PFA forever chemicals are, it is listed on our website. The Homer Glen Junior Women's Club Garden Walk, which Sue was talking about because she's a proud member, is this weekend on Saturday, July 15th from 9:30 to 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m. Tickets are $15 and will be available online until Friday evening. It can be purchased for cash on the day of the event at the check-in site. This is a rain or shine event that includes 7 local beautiful gardens. Please come out and admire your neighbors' gardens, as well as supporting a local non-for-profit organization who consistently donates their time to the betterment of our community. We also have had some complaints regarding BP, British Petroleum employees, marking and taking down trees on private property. An update on this from staff was that they met with representatives from BP, and BP will be sending us over a blurb that we can post on our website and issue to residents. At this time, I have the following information to provide. BP regularly conducts these types of assessments within their easement, much like some of the other utilities in the area, like NICOR. They assess a lot of their pipeline via aerial flyovers and satellite imagery. Nightport just took down a plethora of landscaping and trees in their easement along 151st Street west of Gower and Homer. The walkthrough is a safety analysis essentially. They are looking at trees which could have roots growing around or into the pipeline. They are not assessing the condition of the trees, and they are not arborists. They are strictly looking at this from a conflict analysis and safety standpoint. The pipelines have a protective coating which prevents corrosion. If a tree's roots grow up against it, it can wear away the coating and cause erosion to take place, which would compromise the integrity of that pipeline. In a 2014 engineering study regarding tree root interference, it was determined locations where pipelines and tree root systems coexist, there is a high occurrence of tree roots causing damage to the external coating of the pipeline. And speaking with the BP representatives, it has to do with visual access as well. They are open to working with us to try and preserve as many trees as possible. For example, if there are trees which are more on the fringe of the easement, they would be open to only trimming some branches as opposed to taking down the entire tree. BP does have a right to maintain their easement. Tree removal must occur in some instances to protect not only the pipeline, but also public safety. And BP will not be doing any removal or trimming until they file for a utility permit and meet with us to evaluate some of the trees. The easement documents that were provided to us from ComEd do not have specific language forbidding the removal of trees. If a homeowner has a separate document that states this, our village staff is asking that you please share it with us so that we can be made aware. We understand our residents' concerns and passion towards protecting our environment, and we will work within our power to minimize the removal of trees where it is feasible. Safety of our residents is our #1 concern, but unfortunately, it is necessary to remove trees on occasion to avoid a much larger environmental hazard. Excuse me. So staff also got a recent update that BP will be performing clearance work along its pipeline right-of-way in Homer Glen in the vicinity of north of 143rd Street. The purpose of the work is to provide access and a clear line of sight to the right-of-way to maintain the integrity of the pipeline. BP is working with the village of Homer Glen and directly with the landowners to complete the work and will make every effort to minimize impacts to that area. Safety will remain our highest priority as we move through this process. And reporting for Environment Committee, we are still looking for more residents to join us in our commitment to clean and preserve our environment. If you are passionate about the environment and ensuring the community and harmony in nature in Homer Glen, please apply online at the village website or with our village staff. Before closing my report, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to our amazing village staff, our selfless Homerfest volunteers and Homerfest committee, our emergency response personnel, and our fearless fest leader, Trustee Tam Pialco. Without all of you, and I mean every single one of you, we could not have another successful Field Fest this year. The design was beautiful, the compliments are many, and the residents that I have spoken to were very happy and enjoyed themselves. I would also like to say thank you to Trustee Pialco and Homer Township Trustee Bonomo for the additional recognition for our veterans and for our seniors that you incorporated into the festival. Now, I was going to wait until old business, Sue, but I had reached out because of environment. I had reached out to the Road District Commissioner Porfilio yesterday before our meeting to give an update. And so I had asked him about what the checks and balances were, and I was going to report an old business, but he's sitting right there.
If you want me to give you a
But
quick
I'd
update?
like to support. You guys want to spare him a minute to explain how the testing went?
That's fine with me.
So there's 3 checks and balances for the clay fill. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll just drop more knowledge on you about it. So the geotechnical report was done at the beginning of the project at the Laguna Woods site, and it was sent to the village engineer, Brett Westcott. It was also posted on the Homer Township webpage. It goes into great detail on the quality of the dirt over there and how much is clay. Great detail. That's the first check and balance. I wouldn't be going to a contractor that's borrowing crap fill from a site that I don't know anything about. The second check and balance is field testing that's done on the loads that are brought over to Trantina Farm. There's 2 tests that we've been doing. There's a hand compaction test and a mason jar test that cross-references the soil classification system to make sure clay is delivered to the site, and they don't pull a bait and switch where they bring in crap fill from some other project. The third check and balance is done after the project is completed and the clay has been placed, and borings will be taken and a geotechnical investigation will be done after it's placed. So there's 3 checks and balances with the clay fill. So many people go on Facebook and the village square and call me on the phone saying I'm full of crap. All the stuff that's out there is not clay. And I hear it from people in public comment. I hear it from people all the time. And that's why Mr. Balch posted that in the patch. And what I'm trying to say is checks and balances have been made to ensure that it's clay and there's paperwork behind it. And that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Jennifer, does that conclude your report?
Almost, so just to end on that, he did send, we have the geotechnical investigators send us their report, so we did receive the soil report, which did go to, I think it's dated 30th of June. And so what was explained, if anything is ever done on Trantina Farm in the future, there will be a 3rd test. So there's already been 2 at the beginning before it left the Bauer site. Then when it also arrived at Trantina Farm, and that all gives everything a clear. And so there'll be another 3rd geotechnical investigation test done if and when anything is built at Trantina.
Okay.
The geotechnical report.
The geotechnical report just basically says that so much clay, so much asphalt, so much gravel or whatever. It's not saying aggregate, thank you. It doesn't say if there's contaminants or anything else.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Excuse me, I'm not looking to have this time as a debate.
Okay.
I'm not. I'm just answering the question.
I'm sorry, I was going to bring this up in old business because she brought up in old business at the last meeting, so that was why I inquired.
We can touch more about it in old business, because I'm sure there's some further questions. Mr. Porforio, if you could stay till then.
Sure.
Thank you. Does that conclude your report, Trustee Hensley? Village Clerk?
I have 2 things. My minutes are all complete there. The last 2 are under review at the moment, so hopefully they're going to be on the next agenda. And earlier in June, we had all received an email from a resident regarding the Goodings Grove playground over at the school at 143rd and Bell. There was some vandalism done there, and just some other inappropriate things left at the playground. And so I wanted to follow up with that resident, and I also wanted to follow up with the superintendent of 33C, Dr. Shabi. So I've been in communication with him the last couple weeks. There was another incident just within the last week and a half, again, of vandalism at the playground. And I just wanted to update that all the footage has been pulled from the dates of the incident. They were able to see 2 teenagers the one day, but unfortunately the cameras did not pick up. They weren't close enough to pick up because there are cameras on the school. I know that Dr. Shabi had mentioned he's been working with Lieutenant Taylor, and they're also looking to maybe install some more cameras so that they can get a better, angle view, closer to where. I just felt very passionate about, because, I don't know if everybody is aware of this, but that playground, the village has put money into it. The parents have put money into it. My kids all attended school there, and the destruction, with it being something that's ongoing, just seems to be getting a little bit out of hand. And I just want to give an update that it's noticed and it's being monitored. So that's it.
Thank you. Can I ask further, if there's any more notification that you get from Dr. Shabi, can you please include Trustee Reiner, since she is the chairman of Parks? I don't think you were made aware of the last time. Yeah, so I think it'd be important to include her on any of those.
Yeah, well, the last incident was, he had been made aware of it before. I just reached out to him after we all received it, because he had sent the email to the whole, the village board, the school board, and obviously the superintendent, and
I just wanted to follow up with him just because, you know, I do know the family personally, and, you know, knowing what, all the fundraising that we did to provide, you know, the students, and not just the students, but the public, because they're allowed to use that facility, that just the construction there is.
Yeah, this isn't the first time.
No, I know, I mean, and it went back, I mean, I'm aware of, you know, the slide being set on fire and all that other stuff, but it's just a shame, so.
And I donated to that park as well.
If you could just forward her the last correspondence, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clerk. Village Attorney,
No report.
will you be updating us on TRIA under old business then?
Yes.
Thank you. Public safety officials, Lieutenant Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Homerfest went very well. Again, thank you for all the kind comments. I appreciate it, but it was definitely a team effort. Thank you, Mayor Natsky-Troike and Trustee Fialko for working with me to implement my new ideas. I think they went pretty well. I got some more for next year. The committee, we all work really well together, so let's keep that going. I want to thank Dave Bricker with Homer Township and his crew, Todd Fonfara with Northwest Homer, Ron Cuss with EMA and his crew, and Lieutenant Gamperl, Lieutenant Hennemark, and Sergeant Langley with the auxiliaries. We could not do it without them in the parking lots, so it worked very well. June 21st, there was an armed robbery at Dottie's after hours, no threat to the community. Obviously, robberies are very rare here, so investigations is working on it. I have no update at this time, just like always, I can't comment on a pending investigation, but anything I can pass along, I will. 4th of July went well, so no more fireworks, because we will be writing tickets. There's increased complaints of ATVs and golf carts and dirt bikes on Heroes Trail between Goodman's Grove and Beaver Lake. I just want to remind everybody, if you allow your children to ride an ATV, we will be writing you a state ticket for permitting an unlicensed driver to ride, because oftentimes we can't catch them, but if we can't pursue, but if we're going to write the parents, and we can tow and impound your ATV, because it's getting out of line. You can only ride ATVs on private property with the landowner's permission, so no farms, no roadways, no common property, and certainly no trails. So I just want to remind everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I'm going to circle back to the village clerk. She forgot to add something.
Another thing, I'm just requesting 2 things. Please make sure we're turning our microphones on, because when I'm trying to type up minutes, I'm having a very hard time picking some things up. So, and I don't want to like blurt out during the meeting, turn your microphone on. But I guess I will. I'll start. And then just as a courtesy, if there's any like reports or notes that you feel are important to you, that need to be included in the minutes, if you can have those to me by, you know, like Friday after the meeting, or, you know, Monday morning. Thank you.
Okay, I'm next. I first of all wanted to apologize for my tardiness today. I apologize if you do hear my phone dinging. I am waiting on a few phone calls. I will leave the meeting, and Trustee Silent will take over if I need to leave. Homerfest, absolutely amazing job to the entire committee and Trustee Fialko and staff and every single person who's everyone who was involved. It was an excellent job. The Ability Awareness Committee got really involved this year. We set a goal to raise $4,200, and we met that goal. Vito and Nix, the McGarry family, and the Mason family put us over that goal with their generous donations, so we really appreciate that. We are assisting the library, and actually we are purchasing a water feature for the library for their sensory room, so we're going to have a presentation on that either here or at the library coming up rather soon. The Pop Tab Challenge all of a sudden is recirculating. I've had 3 mayors from other towns contact me and ask if we are looking to challenge them. I'm a little nervous because some of those towns have 54,000 residents. I'm not sure that we have that many pop drinkers in this town, but I think we can take on the challenge. I wanted to recognize somebody that I wasn't here for that at the time, but I wanted to recognize the new Homer Township trustee, Mike Clausen. Congratulations to being appointed to the new township board. And I believe that was it for my report as of for right now. Oh, I apologize. Brent Woods has something to share with you guys as well.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Knightley had approached me about a couple of signs out in front. We have a veteran thing going lately, so she had asked me about researching the veteran-only parking spaces. So I did a lot of research on it. I couldn't, maybe the attorney can jump in here, I couldn't find anything anywhere where there was an ordinance regarding veteran-only parking, only because it's kind of an honor system thing. So what we were discussing was the possibility of making these 2 spaces on either side of the 3 handicap spaces in the front, veteran-only parking, if that meets with everyone's approval.
So the veteran parking signs, what was the cost on those?
They were $25, I think.
Okay, so the purpose of this was to put 2 additional or 2 parking spaces for veteran parking only. Obviously, there's no way to check to make sure that there is actual veteran parking there, so it's just kind of an honor system. Just kind of wanted to throw it out there, see how it goes. It'd be 1 on each side of the handicap parking spaces, which then would allow additional spaces for somebody who is handicapped to open their doors or whatnot.
Yes.
I mean, we can't vote on it right now, but it's what, $100 or less to do this? I don't think there's an issue with parking. Does any trustee have an issue or questions regarding that? No. Okay. Sorry, go
If
ahead.
I can.
Yes.
We are actually going to be putting in, and I don't know if Brett Westcott was going to talk about that tonight, but we are going to be talking about that at the first meeting on Monday, new parking lot that's going to be going next to the Village Hall, to the east of the Village Hall. So maybe in there we could,
Move the signs over
Yeah.
there when that's
Yeah.
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Brent. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Again, I was not here, but I believe the only thing under consent agenda is item 1.
That's correct.
Okay, so for consent agenda is consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of June 16, 2023 through July 13, 2023 in the amounts of $777,248.18. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Since there's no discussion, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Reinders,
Aye.
trustee Stylen,
Aye.
trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Mason,
Aye.
trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. I believe it was consent item number 2 that was moved to LA. Consider for approval payment of the Village of Homer Glen's May legal bills from Peterson, Johnson, and Murray in the amount of $8,999.50. Is there a motion? Said trustee Consolino.
I will second. I will second.
Any discussion? Trustee Consolino?
We discussed this before the meeting, but I would request that if I would rather not have to wait a month for an answer on a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I would rather not have to wait a month for a question.
you. Question?
Yes.
What do you mean, question?
When I asked about TRIA and everything, you're giving us the opinion tonight, or we're still working on it. I would ask for faster action than the next meeting. And that's not even your bill, but that's not, I'm just making that request. Also, it's not, it's a very hefty bill. I know that trustee Fialko had a question, because for that special meeting that we had, how much did it cost?
I have a question.
Well, we discussed this. How much did it cost for preparation for the special meeting?
$1,209.50, but that doesn't include the meeting itself.
Yes.
But this is your thing that you're talking about, right?
No, I just, how much did it actually cost for that meeting? We'll get that in the next one?
I don't. It's not on this bill, is it?
No, but the preparation for the meeting was on this bill.
I only see one entry here on the 31st for that, right? For $125. I don't know what you're talking
I guess the question, trustee Consolino, is, I believe it's your question. Trustee Consolino, what are you here?
Here for an intent, okay.
Prepare, so
Yeah, because
5/24.
that's the time.
5/24 is a regular board meeting, I can't do it late at night.
Okay.
And let me just say that, I don't know how much time I wrote off last month, because it takes more time for me to write it down, put it down next to it, no charge, but I can tell you that I put at least 20 hours in May that I didn't charge for. If you want to see that, I'll do it, it's just kind of a pain, because I'm not charging for it anyways. So I prefer not to waste my time writing down and make sure you say no charge, but I can tell you that there's an enormous amount of work here in this town that needs to be addressed. And I'm trying to do it in a conservative way. Recently, the mayor and Trustee Galco mentioned an ordinance project that they wanted to start rewriting some ordinances. And I said, let's get a budget together. Let's figure out how many ordinances we want to write. Let's figure out a timeline. And because I don't want to be up here defending my bill every month, if that's what's going to be happening here. So I would just rather take it head on, for a budget, and manage expectations. So that's my proposal.
May I?
Yeah.
Normally, the billing always went through the old A&F, and I would always ask Carmen, have you reviewed the bill? Because really, the inner office is really who kind of manages this and understands the day-to-day operations and how legal ends up being used. So I would ask Carmen today, have you reviewed this bill, or are you satisfied?
I have reviewed the bill, and I know I reviewed the bill because the first line of the billing is my last name spelled wrong, but that's okay. But it gives me an opportunity to go through and basically check and balance what employees had asked me permission to discuss stuff with legal, me discussing stuff with legal. I know there's always conversations with drafts and ordinances that we put through, so we know who we're sending those to. I do have email correspondence that kind of go with the flow of these dates, so I had no issues with this bill. That's why I put it on inside.
Right, so you're satisfied with the building and everything you saw on here? I mean,
There's a few tweaks, but we're in discussion with Cole's office just because we want to get our accounting numbers on the bill, so it's easier for us to justify it. That's all.
and it's not just from watching the bills that went through legal and A&F before. Sometimes they were $10,000, other times they were $2,000. And there's this ebb and flow with the work that comes in and the work that is done by the legal team, where you're going to have that fluctuation. Our budget for legal counsel, whether it was 2 lawyers like it was before or even now, is $175,000. Just so the public knows. And that is posted here at the bottom of 2. So as long as you're saying you're satisfied with the billing and the way it's written up?
Yeah, I have no concerns with the dates that we got posted.
And if I may, as we move forward, I'm happy, this is all built to a general file. I can break out sub-files. We have a wastewater project we're working on, we have a boundary line project we're working on, we have an annexation. These are really specialty things that I can break out further rather than just regular board meetings and ordinances. So I can do it any way you want.
Yeah, I was just waiting for John to come back from vacation because he wanted to make sure that it was coded so it matches his account. But we'll discuss that later.
Gina Villanova is my billing specialist at the firm, and you can just email her directly. She'll do whatever you want.
All right.
I don't get involved with that.
Trustee Reinders, do you have anything? I'm sorry, Trustee Galco, were you done?
Yeah.
Trustee Reinders?
The only question I would have is that, I
Can you
didn't.
please turn your microphone on? I'm
I'm sorry. I didn't see anything pertaining to union negotiations in here.
Then you can consider that gratis for me. If it's not on the bill.
I was gonna touch
you're not
base on
gonna see it,
that.
you're not- But, I know Deanna was reaching out for the other Deanna. We've had a meeting.
Several.
First Deanna, my Deanna, is at some soccer tournament. She talked to the second Deanna, and we're looking for a mediation date. But I can break that out to a sub-file as well.
I think that would be easier for us, to actually just go through it quicker. We would see this pertains to this pertains to this.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna see like 5 or 6 bills from me there.
Yeah, that's fine.
But that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Steinman? So I do have something, I did, Paul knows, or I'm sorry, Attorney O'Brady knows when I saw this, I did call him right away and my eyes were bumped out. And I did notice that there was nothing on 150. Part of the problem was previous attorney was supposed to transfer all the files, all the information, and unfortunately we didn't receive those. So there was a lot of additional meetings of trying to catch up and play catch up. So
I can say that, and I do know that they had to do a lot of homework research on all the previous ordinances, how to move forward with certain things. So the first bill, and I did do some research, and when we hired new attorneys, the first bill, first month or two, was a little high for them to catch up. So, and I do see that there is a budget of $175,000. I do not want to get anywhere near that. I know you might want to, but I don't.
That was the only thing I was hoping was omitted.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second. Everyone, Trustee Consolino, did you have something?
Could I just, the only reason why I want to have this pulled out, I want to have it pulled out for each meeting, I was going to ask that of Village Manager Morella, is that you know that we've been attacked monthly by residents about what our legal bills were. So therefore, for truth and transparency, I'd like to request that from here on out, that we always put Carmen from the consent agenda so that we don't have to go through amending it at each meeting.
I would put it
Thank you.
first item.
Thank you. Thanks.
That
Oh, that's why. So, okay.
And I appreciate that, and, you know, I'm used to having my bills FOIA reviewed, scrutinized, so it's nothing new to me. I've got the tread marks, I'm used to it.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Styron?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Motion carries. So I believe we moved K4 to LB. Is that correct? All right, I'm going with it. So I think in the motions earlier, they moved.
It's K4, yeah.
Okay. So consider for approval a contract with HR Green for engineering services to provide a drainage study for Pine Hill subdivision in the amount of $18,215.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
The reason I wanted to pull this out of the consent agenda is so Brett Westcott could explain, and I don't want to say for any one reason or another, but we've gone through this before. We don't have to do RFPs and we don't have to go out to bid the way I understand it, because we already have taken 5 engineering firms into consideration, and there's a list that Brett Westcott is able to work off of for this reason. So that process has already been done. Brett, could you explain it just a little bit?
So more or less what Trustee Fialko was saying, we had discussions on when, why, how, certain things, go to consent, bid, contract, all that fun stuff.
Correct.
So it's a learning experience for all of us.
Well, this was voted on by
It
the
was.
board long ago, so you didn't have to go through it every time for the smaller jobs that had to be done. And matter of fact, we did not have an engineer with a PE like we have today. We're very fortunate. Thank you for that. But at the time, we did not have an engineer with a PE degree, and that is why that was done. These are for those types of jobs, just to help them out.
Is he explaining it or are you?
I would say both. So at this time, I'll give the floor back to
Yeah, so I can elaborate on it a little bit. We currently have an RFP on our website as it stands right now to renew some of our engineering contracts. What we call it is like an ad hoc engineering contract, and essentially what that does is we have these several firms that have come through to us that we approve. We vet through all the firms, kind of weigh it out. We give them each a score, like what we've done in the past. We've had Seaville, V3, HR Green, Robinson, Farnsworth. I think that's all of them, right? So what that does is essentially, it's like these are approved firms that are voted on and approved by the board, and those are what we would generally ask for quotes or things like that. Following, Carmen had just handed this out as well. So it's a nice visual, but it's also a print off of our village code, chapter 50, which has to do with purchasing and approval levels and bid requirements, and it kind of lists all that stuff out of there. So for a professional service contract, if it's 10,000 or greater, essentially, that has to go and be approved by the board, but it does not have to go through a formal bid process, right? A request for service doesn't have to go through a formal RFP. There is no upper echelon limit on that dollar amount there, but I think that generally speaking, right, when it comes to certain prices, if we're starting to get into the 50s of thousands or the hundreds of thousands or the millions of dollars, obviously then we would go out for RFP because we want to get a wide range of quotes on that. But I think that in this instance, for these drainage projects and stuff like that, I'm selecting a firm that I feel is best equipped to complete this task and that I, feel comfortable working with and have been working with. I think that they're very knowledgeable with the history of Homer Glen, have dealt with a lot of these issues, and that's kind of why we went with HR Green, or at least that's why I chose HR Green for this quote. Does that clarify it a little bit more? Do you want me to elaborate a little bit?
Yes, thank you. We've worked with HR Green, this village has worked with that HR Green, I think, since the infancy of the village, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, thank you for that explanation. And I know you had a question about it, so that's why I wanted to make sure we went out and got an explanation.
No, I appreciate that. Carmen, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just gave some visuals, just because sometimes it's nice to understand the process we go through before it gets to you guys as a board. I always like to make sure the board understands that you guys see everything. There's not anything that we don't put forth to the board. You approve the AP every month, you guys approve contracts every month. So, and it's just this is a good segue to show what exactly the process is as we go through for RFPs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to share that with the board. So if you guys have any questions, by all means, you can reach out to me in my office or anything like that.
Thank you. Is there any, I forgot who made the motion.
I did.
Who seconded it?
No problems.
Trustee Reinders, do you have anything to add to this? Trustee Castellano? Trustee Mason? Trustee Steiner? Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we're moving on to what was consent item number 3, but is now LC. Where am I? L1. Consider for approval the 2 quotes from Reiki Interiors to remodel and improve 2 village offices in order to bring them up to date to match the rest of the interior is updated in 2016 for the total of $8,715. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Reinders? Trustee Consolino, do you have anything?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
I know that we've used them, is this the same company that Gia, is this the same company that we used to do the event coordinating office? And they were very reasonable. I know that we had gotten some prices that were pretty high from other people, but they seem to be very competitive, so I think they're a good company. They did a great job.
Trustee Mason?
I'd like to know, I'm sure we've done other, go ahead.
No, Trustee Mason?
Yours then.
I'd like to know if this, I know it's not the first time we've done renovations to the building before, and if so, do we still have furniture from older renovations and things like that? Are we still in possession? Because isn't it supposed to go out to bid if we have old furniture for office, desks, chairs, lamps, whatever the case may be? Doesn't it go out to bid?
I don't think it's called bid, I think it's auction. Doesn't it go out to auction?
Okay, it goes out to auction. I'm just curious about that. I know that I asked for it to be moved because this is really the first time, besides getting the packet of even hearing, that we were going to need renovations. And I've seen most of the offices, and I feel that everybody's offices are pretty nice compared to where I work at corporate. So I don't think they're terrible by any means, and I thought that the quote was high myself, actually.
Manager Morella can touch base on it, because I asked the same question earlier and he could explain to me.
So, what we're trying to do is.
Just leave it on.
Yes. So what we do is we have 4 offices that have not been retrofitted with desks to accommodate, to accommodate the employees. Melissa King's, Greg Westcott's office has not been modified yet. Gia's, Karen's are the other 2 that have not been modified. What we do find out is when we're in each other's desks, some of them we put a piece of paper on to go ahead and start discussing some conversations. I'm a big advocate about giving people the workspace they need, just so it's accommodating. So what I do is I let them design it, and then I nitpick the heck out of it, because I know what the prices are, and I don't want to see them inflated. So these were several revisions on these to get it to the price that I felt comfortable with. So just so you guys are aware, these are very nitpicked before I do have 2 other offices that I do need to get retro and Melissa's and Brett's, but we'd like to know what they would need for their accommodations so that we can move forward with that.
And I appreciate that. I think that employees should definitely be comfortable, and I think these are more productive. My question, I think, goes back to what happens to the furniture? So do we put it out for auction? Have we done this in the past, and are we sitting on anything that should be going out to auction?
So
I'm just thinking about how offsetting costs.
So there was some leftover furniture from the previous building which could not be retrofitted in the area. It was set up to go to auction. I think there was an ordinance you guys passed in 2021. We had no movement on it. Some of the pieces over time, because stuff gets shuffled, broken, damaged, so we're at that point.
So the stuff that we currently have, if these offices get re-renovated, that will go to auction?
Yeah, a lot of times, like the,
I know it's going to be pennies on the dollar.
I know, maintenance guys would like to take a couple desks, but they're insurance for that. So, I know Parks just acquired a couple desks that they took from the basement and stuff too. So we do utilize what we have. So.
Well, that's good. That's what I'd like to see is it going places and being utilized. And okay, well, you've answered my questions.
Trustee Fialko?
Okay. We have had things go to auction, but sometimes it takes more staff time and work for the value that it is. A lot of times it's 10 years old, it's 7 years old, it's been used. And so there's limited things, and when he says that Public Works want to take it, they probably want to put it somewhere that they're going to do some work on it or something, I'm guessing. But a lot of times what I've seen is this equipment is so old it isn't worth putting it out there and spending staff's time. It costs you more to put it to auction than it does for the value that you get out of it. So sometimes it's just worth it just to either donate it or to throw it in the garbage. We did have some stuff go to auction not too long ago through Public Works. It was a generator and some other. There were about 5 things that were on the list, and I think we only sold 2 of the things. And the other 3 things that are still in storage, I just got to see over at Anaco Drive. So it's just sitting there taking up space. They made the effort. So at that point, what do you scrap it? Do you throw it in the garbage? Do you donate it? I mean, I think with the village manager, you should be able to take a look at those things and make that decision without too much of our input. I mean, to just get it done based on your own judgment. But
usually surplus has to go in front.
I know we auctioned phones off. We've had excess phones, and they got auctioned off. I think Chief Casson was involved with that, and they made some money off of it. So there's some things we can do that with, and there's other things that it isn't worth the effort.
Right, and I appreciate that, Trustee Fialko. I just want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and making sure that we're either donating it, we're either putting it to use somewhere, maybe the Public Works or whatever the case may be, needs a area to sit and eat. I just don't, use it wisely, so to speak.
The only thing I'd like to close with is, I think, for anybody that works at a desk for 8 hours, if they're comfortable, I think that's the first thing that should be taken into consideration. Are you comfortable? Is it safe, the desk? Is the chair safe? Do you have the room that you need to work in? So if like what we did with special events in the back and putting that counter up back there and making it functional, making things functional for the employees and making the employee happy is at the top of the list.
Is that all, Trustee Fialko?
Yep.
Thank you, Trustee Steinman?
Yes, I was just going to add first that all of that furniture that we have was donated to us. It really isn't quality furniture that we are getting rid of. I can attest to that. There is a question, though, just how the priority of which offices get handled first, because the 2 offices that aren't being done, one is a director and one is somebody who is a full-time, and one of the offices that we are buying the furniture for is for a part-time staff member. So it just would look better, I think, if you took care of the full-time members first before you took care of the part-time.
Isn't sometimes that logistics, so maybe Carmen could explain why he chose it.
Well, in the time of us trying in preparation to get these desks together, Brett Westcott and Melissa King were in their height of the season, so I was kind of waiting until they slow down in their season so I can get their input on their desks. So that's why the priority happened, so.
Do we have a time frame of when their offices will be done?
We're hoping to have them done either Christmas or January.
Okay, is there any more discussion? Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Styler?
Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to legislation and action items. Item 1, Mayor's appointment to the Homer Community Festival Committee. The members that are being appointed today are members Mike Carlson, Tony Drabeck, Ethan Fialko, Mark Gowen, Jay Rhodey, Paul McGarry, and John Walters. Is there a motion?
I will make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion, Trustee Fialko?
There sure it is. We will remove one of the members from this list, who is Mike Bonomo. I know Mike Bonomo doesn't live in Homer Glen, but Mike Bonomo has donated hours and hours, endless hours of his time, was responsible for the senior event, was responsible for the veterans event, and donated hundreds of dollars in supplies. Cases of paper towels, cases of pop-up wipes, cases of nitrile gloves, cases of 55-gallon clear liners, 5 cases of 96-gallon liners, delivered in 2 hours after it was considered an emergency order. So I understand that. For one, I don't understand the benefit of removing somebody from the committee, because really, as a volunteer, anybody could come in and do the same thing. So all this does is upsets people on a committee by removing them for no reason that I can find, because I've worked side by side with Mr. Bonomo, and I have nothing but good things to say about him. I hope politics isn't the reason why this has gotten in the way, and I know that some things have changed a little bit as far as ordinances, but it really, to take a name off of there, it's not fair to the man that has donated hundreds of, I don't know if it was hundreds, but it was a lot of 8-hour days and the whole year of participating with the fest. Actually, I'd like to make the motion to add Mike Bonomo's name to this list. So I need a second. I'd like to get a second to add Mike Bonomo's name back to this list.
Wait, hold on. Trustee Mason made the second. I think we should.
No, he made the second on the motion.
I think we should
itself,
finish discussion.
Not the motion to amend.
Can I add something to what you said before you make your motion?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Mike Bonomo was not removed from the committee. He was never a committee member. Our bylaws say you must live in Homer Glen to be a committee member. He was on your committee as a non-voting member. This is for committee members. This is not for non-voting members. Nowhere did I ever say politics were involved or whatever accusations you just made. Those are not true.
I said I hoped it wasn't.
Yeah, but when you say I hope, we know where you're going with that, right? Because otherwise you wouldn't have said it. So, Mike Bonomo is not being removed from anything. This is for committee appointments. Our ordinance says you have to live in Homer. Unfortunately, he lives in Lockport. I cannot appoint someone who lives in Lockport to a committee when our bylaws say something different, number one. Number two, you had actual residents apply for this committee that live in Homer Glen that you did not appoint. I think it would be unfair to go against our own ordinance and our own rules to appoint somebody who lives in Lockport to your committee. Now, if this said non-voting members, his name would be on there. And so would Lieutenant Taylor, who's a part of your non-voting members, Dave Bricker, Brent Woods, whoever else you have at those meetings. That's not what this is about. This is what was brought to me.
The first one that I received had Mike Bonomo's name on it. The second one I received today at 11 o'clock had Mike Bonomo removed. Under 10.6, for advisory purposes, the committee chairperson, with the advice and consent of the board, may appoint additional non-voting members to the standing committee that are not members of the standing committee and not residents of the village of Homer Glen. All committee members, subcommittees, task forces, and advisors shall serve at the pleasure of the chairperson and shall deem sufficient thereof.
Well, thank you for the clarification of what I just said. You must live in Homer to be a committee member. Where does it say? Under the ordinance, it says you have to be a Homer Glen resident to be a part of the committee.
as a
For,
member.
it says right for.
You're reading non-voting members. This is for voting members.
No, I am not. It's under membership 10.6. But nevertheless, if that was the thing, I tried getting a hold of you a couple times today to clarify what was taking place. I'm sorry if it came out this way, but I do not want him removed anywhere from participating in Homerfest. And if you're
Didn't
good with
say
that, if you're good with that, then I'm good with it.
I'm going
But I
by
will
what I
stand up for every
understand.
member on that committee for all the hard work.
I agree, they did a fantastic job. Nobody said that they did a terrible job, and in fact, I sat here and said they did a great job. My point is, I'm sticking with what our rules are, and from what I understand, you have to live in Homer Glen to be a voting member on a committee. Non-voting members can live in China. I don't care where they live. You just can't live, you just have to be a voting member, has to live in Homer Glen.
Correct.
Okay, correct.
As a
He
member,
lives in
you can
Lockport.
still be a member and be on the committee.
This
as
is
a
work.
non-voting member.
Okay,
So,
let me explain what I'm talking about here. Committee members
I know.
live in Homer Glen. Non-voting members can live wherever. Okay, this is for
but they're still
committee.
considered members.
My gosh. Okay. You can make your adjustment or your motion. I am not, this is my appointment. I am not appointing Mike Bonomo as a committee voting member. He does not live in Lockport. He does not live in Homer Glen. I'm sticking to our ordinances. Otherwise, we could all have members from different towns, which I was told we couldn't before when I was on a committee.
At our meeting where you made some changes, you said yourself that you wanted people that don't live in Homer Glen to be able to be on committee. That's what you said.
I don't remember saying that.
At the May meeting.
No, I
that was
said
part of the-
non-voting members.
And for this board did approve it according to the ordinance under 10.6, bringing Mike Bonomo and Jay Rhodey on at the same time. So I guess here's where I'm at with it. As long as you're all right with him participating at the same level that he's participating now, it really doesn't make a difference. And that's why I was wondering why you were removing his name. Because he doesn't vote anyway, but he's a member. And if you, okay, he's not a member now, but what is he losing? Nothing. But he's still going to participate, so I'm good with that.
Well, thank you for agreeing with my appointment. I appreciate that. Carmen, can you clarify that for us? We had this discussion several times.
In order to be a voting member of our committee, you have to live in the village.
Thank you.
You
And the definition?
You can be an advisory member, non-voting, living outside.
And that's what he was. And
Right. And can you explain what this committee appointment is today for
This is
voting
for
members?
voting members.
Thank you. And if you guys, Trustee Fialko, if you want to bring forward non-voting members of the list of people, because Mike's the only one that you would have brought forward. And Mike, just for clarification, I have requested several times for him not to be on this. It was a mistake. I caught it yesterday.
well, when I got it at 11 o'clock today, I looked at it a different way, and I apologize for that. But Mike Bonomo will continue participating at the same level that he participates now.
Great, I hope he
He
does.
does not take any vote on anything anyway. Although mistakenly, I think he voted on minutes one time. But we cleared that up. So as long as you're good with him remaining, doing what he's been doing in the past, I'm good with it.
Great, man. I appreciate if any more of those comments can be refrained until we hear the entire story. I don't want to waste any more time on nonsense.
No, anytime I have a question, I'll bring it forward just like I did if I think there's a problem. I tried contacting you all day, I understand there was a problem, but it's no disrespect to you. But when an issue comes up, and this is where it has to be cleared up, this is where it's got to be cleared up.
And I tried to contact you yesterday regarding it.
Yeah, you did,
I did. Trustee Mason, do you have anything to add?
I'm glad we got it all cleared up. I understood it exactly to be voting members had to live in Homer Glen, and I'm all for it.
Trustee Simon?
I was just going to say, we have a history of having advisory members. The Environment Committee has had advisory members, and they just list them separately. So if you want, you just don't list them as committee member, you just say committee members and then list advisory members.
Is that all? Trustee Consolino?
If Trustee Fialko, who sits as the chair on this committee, is okay with this, then I support Trustee Fialko. But I would like to also request that we not be belittled or cut off for our opinions.
Perfect. Is that all?
Yes.
Trustee Reigers?
I just think, as long as he's on the committee, because I think he's really brought a lot to the table, and he worked very hard this year on the committee, with the committee, so as long as he's still a member of the committee, if he votes or he doesn't vote, he's the kind of person that just likes to devote, he loves his community. And he feels that Homer Glen is his community. He's lived in Homer Glen for a long time. He just recently moved into Lockport. So I think he's an asset for the community and for his committee.
Thank you, Trustee Reigers. Is that it?
That's it.
I also will say that Mike Bonomo is a great asset to this committee. He's been a great asset to the seniors committee and many other aspects of the village and the township. This was no way involved political. I'm going by what our own ordinances says that you guys had voted for. He is more than welcome to be on the committee as a non-voting member and continue what he does. I'm happy he's part of the committee.
Right, and originally that is how he was voted into this committee with Jay Rhodey at the same time, him as a non-voting member. But it was done under the pretense of a member. And so that's maybe where the confusion is as far as the ordinance. I was speaking directly to the ordinance.
It was explained differently to me when I had asked. So,
Understood.
understand the confusion. Is that it? Any more discussion? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 2, consider for approval ordinance number 23-030, a request for special use permit to allow a swimming pool to be located in a side yard for certain real property located in the R5 Single Family Residential District at 13637 West Ironwood Circle, Homer Glen, Illinois. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Trustee Mason, do you have anything?
I don't at this time. I think there's been other instances where we've given leeway, and I think this individual and resident should have the same consideration.
Thank you. Trustee Reigers?
I also believe that we should consider this. It seems like their side yard is basically really the only space. If you look at, I looked this over a couple times, and actually even drove out there, and it's basically the only way that they can do it. And why should they have to not have a pool just because it's not in the right spot? So I'm all for it.
Trustee Fialko?
I see that the planning commission voted 5-0 to adopt the staff findings. Melissa, would you have anything to add to it? I do see it's an odd-shaped yard. I don't see why we wouldn't vote yes. I'm in support of it right now. Would you have anything to add to it?
I do not, and I'm supportive.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
I agree with pretty much everything that's said. It's a corner lot, and there's not much else you can do with a corner lot.
Trustee Consolino?
I have no problems, this planning commission had no problem with it, and because there's no drainage issues, I think we're safe to go.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 3, consider for approval ordinance number 23-036, an ordinance requesting an extension of ordinance 21-025 that granted 1, a map amendment for A2 rural residential to C2 local business, 2, a special use permit for a planned unit development PUD with certain exceptions, 3, a special use permit for a drive-through establishment, 4, a site improvement plan, and 5, a preliminary plat for certain real property located in an A2 rural residential zoning district and C2 local business zoning district at 12121 with West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, case number HG 22108 PUD.
So moved.
I will second it.
Trustee Consolino?
No?
Trustee Fialko?
I just want to make sure that Melissa, of course, I always ask you when we have extensions like this, nothing's changed on here that I can see, and nothing for the extension has changed. I know the next number that's in line here, L4, kind of parallels with this, but as far as extending this, I mean, it looks like they just finally got the final plot of the subdivision for that address.
We actually, the board approved the final plat in March, I believe. And they have been still working through some details, and they have some issues with, I would say, project management on the project. It's been going on for close to 3 years. So we'll be really excited if it gets to the finish line.
Right, so it's taken some time with this.
It has. They went to record the plat, and the county held it, wanted to hold it for 5 days, and it just did not make it in time. And so we had to come back and do the extension because the overall PUD will expire. The plat recording time, they didn't make the deadline, so
And
we
as far-
expect it will happen soon. I'm sorry.
As far as cleaning anything up on this, being that we have the opportunity, you don't see anything that needs to be cleaned up on this?
I do not.
Okay, thank you.
I forgot where I left off. Trustee Reinders?
Basically, it's just an extension, so nothing's changed.
Trustee Simon?
Did I get everybody? Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 4, consider for approval ordinance number 23-037, an ordinance approving a final plot of subdivision, Will County Ace Plaza subdivision for certain real property located at 12121 West 159th Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois, HG 2210A PUD.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko? Good.
Melissa?
Just want me to call.
All right, and the way it goes
Stephanie?
together with the other one, you're happy with everything that's there, right? Okay, nothing, no.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Mason?
Nothing.
Trustee Reinders?
No, nothing.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 5, consider for approval ordinance number 23-038, an ordinance granting a variance to permit a mix of brick, stone, and cement board siding materials on the first floor of the dwelling in lieu of the exterior construction standards 75-67A of the code of the Village of Homer, Glen for certain real property located in an R1 single-family residential district at 14609 West 136th Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois. And I realize I missed the parentheses there. It just says type of building or structure. Is there a motion?
I'll second.
Trustee Reinders, do you have anything?
Joe, these materials that they're using, these are all approved materials with us?
Yeah, it's consistent with the materials in the previous variances that have come before the board.
Okay.
Already board siding, stone.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Trustee Fialko, you made the second, right?
Yes, thank you. Joe, was this the house that came to us before we wanted to do all siding in the front?
No.
And then that's not the
This is a
same?
new structure.
Okay.
It's actually
All right, I think this meeting, Joe, you're happy with this, right? You would know.
consistent with the farm style house we've been seeing lately.
All right, that's it for me.
Trustee Reinders, did you have something else to add?
No, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't what came before us.
Trustee Consolino?
And this one didn't have to go for planning, right?
No.
Trustee Stylen?
I think it's a beautiful house, and it'll be a really nice addition to the neighborhood.
Trustee Mason?
Mr. Baber, this is very similar to the one that did come from, similar to the one that came before us just a couple weeks back. And these are all the same materials, the hardy board, the brick, the facade. I think the current condition of the house compared to what it's going to look like is absolutely gorgeous, and I say, why not?
Great. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item 6, consider for approval ordinance number 23-039, an ordinance accepting the street lighting in Phase 1 of the Villas of Old Oak PUD subdivision. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Reinders, is there a second? Anybody? Going once? I'll second. Trustee Reinders, do you want to go ahead?
I think this is just the first phase of the lighting. They're finished with the first phase of the townhouses, so they need to get the lighting in there so they can start moving forward with doing the modeling and getting people in there and taking a look at
Trustee Styling?
I just have to ask, it's all code compliant, there's nothing different, so.
Trustee Mason?
No, ma'am.
Trustee Cancelino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
None from me.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino. Aye. Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Styling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 7, consider for approval ordinance number 23-040, an ordinance amending sections 138-4C, 138-4E, and 138-4H to update the improved acre farm market value. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Cancelino, is there a second?
Aye. So moved.
Second, Trustee Steinman. Is that Trustee Cancelino that went first?
This came up before us last time, Village Glen, like last year, same time, correct? This is a yearly.
This came up to us in A&F, and it never moved forward, so. But recent events, just to give some clarification, the school did a resolution and sent it to the village, so we figured we can act on it. Janie has more detail because she works with the schools on these, but we did want to bring this to the board because they were asking for some updates on it.
Do you consider this to be a pass-through tax, Village Manager? I can explain a little.
It's more of an impact fee where, you know, a developer comes in and they're going to tear up the property and we need to take care of schools and not burden the other taxpayers in the area, so it passes through to the home that's being purchased at the time.
So does it pass through to the actual developer or to the homeowner?
It's the residents, because it's going to be incorporated into the price of the home. That's how they cost it out.
It's been handled both ways.
Yeah.
Just to answer that question.
Thank you.
Because it could be, we can also structure payment and negotiate through development agreements or annexation agreements, or just require a time of final plat that they pay those lump sum impact fees, whether it be fire, school, parks, all those things. And then some of those agreements were never handled that way, and so those are, when they pull permit for a new house in development, they pay those at the time. So they are handled both ways.
I've paid a lot of attention to how much the school districts each have increased our tax levy the past 4 years, and so, no, I'm not comfortable, so, thank you.
Trustee Styling?
Yeah, I was just going, my only question had been there was no motion made on this agenda, so does anyone know why somebody might not motion, but just.
There was a motion.
There was a motion.
No, when it went to A&F.
Oh, yes, I was in A&F at that time because it's a tax increase, definitely. It's a tax increase on the people buying the house, and we will not raise taxes on anybody in this community. That was our stance, and that is still my stance.
Well, I see property values going up, and I don't have a problem with it.
Trustee Reinders?
I have a problem with it. I think the residents are taxed enough, and, you know, it's just more of a burden. I mean, how much money are we going to just keep charging these people every time they come to pull a permit for a house? It's like every time there's something new that's added onto it, and it's ridiculous. So I'm not in favor of it either.
Trustee Bill, I know you kind of spoke earlier, but that wasn't your turn. Did you want to speak again?
Oh, did you?
No, were you done? I'm sorry. Okay, Trustee Fialko, did I say Reinders? I'm sorry.
Just, the comment was made about in A&F. It didn't get motioned at all. There were 3 trustees in there and the mayor in there. It didn't get motioned at all. It was looked at as a tax increase, and yeah, we could say it's a pass-through tax. But we have a hard enough time, well, the houses are selling well right now, but passing that on to somebody else, especially when the school districts have all raised the taxes and several other entities that their names are on there, I don't think that we should put any more tax burden on anybody that wants to move into Homer Glen. We're taxed enough, and this is just another tax that would be put on somebody that would be interested in investing in Homer Glen. I don't see it as fair. I think the stability with taxes right now is at the point where it needs to be or remain where it's at, if not lower. So I'm not in support of this at all.
Trustee Mason?
I agree with the vast majority. I look at this as a tax at this time. I do feel that the schools are getting adequate funds from the taxations. And I feel that if you're going to continue to grow and continue to bring businesses and other residents into Homer Glen, that we're taxed pretty heavily as is.
Trustee Simon, did you have something to add?
I think I'm not understanding something right. Isn't this like relieving some of the tax burden? Because this is an impact fee because people are bringing children into our school system, which are going to raise our taxes
That's
because
correct.
we are going to be needing
That's correct.
more schools. And this is to offset that. So if you're going to move here and bring children here, you're going to be adding to the schools. So I see that as a relief to the current residents who are here in Homer Glen.
That's correct. Can I just make a few background statements about what this is about? It really is not a new property tax on homeowners, especially existing homeowners. What it is there are one-time charges on new development. And the charge is proportional to the demand for new capital projects that growth causes to schools, to parks, to fire, and to library. That's what we have impact fees for in this community at this time. So when a subdivision comes in, there are children being added to schools. There is the need for more recreational capital projects, parks being built. And this is a way to incrementally accommodate that growth in those, and those needs are met for the capital projects without having to tax the entire base. This actually doesn't come anywhere close to accommodating what those real costs actually are, especially when you talk to the schools. But it is something that can help alleviate the cost of both land sites and school facilities, for instance. And it does help us grow our park system as new developments come on. So that's what it's all about. It is within our power to have imposed development impact fees. Municipalities do this across the board in order to account for the orderly growth that's necessary and the costs and burdens that that growth causes on a community. So that's the general philosophy behind development impact fees. So, and then the fair market value, it does have to be proportional, it has to be reasonable and defensible, so there is a formula, and part of what goes into that formula is the appraised fair market value for an improved acre of land in a school district, for instance. And so what the code requires is that when the school districts want an adjustment to the fair market value to bring it in line with the market reality, and to have that formula work, they need to have an appraisal and they need to come forward to the village and get that updated in our code. The board has the authority to make the final decision and to act without the school districts coming forward like that, but that's the typical mechanism for it. The last time that this was updated was in 2017. Yes, it does raise the cost to develop, and what happens is that the park donation as land or the fees in lieu of to help us pay for future parks is paid to the village at the time of plat approval, so that we are ensured that we get that taken care of before we lose that leverage on a development. And then how the practice has been that when they're coming in for building permits, the building department needs to see receipts, the payments of impact fees to the other taxing districts, the library, fire, and schools has taken place before they'll issue the building permit. So it happens at typically at the building permit stage. And what that does is it actually helps developers on a cash flow basis. They don't have to pay for the entire thing all at one time up front like a plat approval, although our code does have that as the typical time that happens. But by practice, it's been a lot going on mostly prior to the issuance of building permits. So we are trying to help developers out that way.
Well, Janie, but the developers, right now, the developers are the ones who are paying the fees that go to the parks.
Right.
This would be the homeowner that would have to pay this fee.
No, to clarify, the developer is the one that is charged, okay, for both parks and schools and library and fire. But of course, every time your cost of doing business goes up, you pass it through, right?
Exactly.
So it does get reflected, but it's not a dollar for dollar. It's it's not like a line item in your price of buying a new home from the developer.
There are instances too where an individual is building their own single-family home, they're acting as a contractor, and they pay that directly. It's
Right,
not a
they
developer.
pay it directly at that point in time, but most of the time, it's the developer that actually is the one who's making the contribution.
It's the way that their contracts are structured, generally who's paying that. If it's a
So
developer.
this basically wouldn't come from the developer, this what comes directly from the resident.
Ultimately, probably.
Right, and then
The person building the home.
for the cost of the home, but yet the resident is already going to be paying 68% of their tax bill. So, I don't get it.
And
That's not right.
Trustee Fialko, did you have something you want to add?
We can spin it any way we want. It's a tax. It's a tax that is going to be paid by the builder. The builder's going to pass it on to the homeowner who buys that property. We don't need to do that. School taxes already are at 70% of our tax bill or larger. But 70 to 75% of our bill is from the school system. They just had a huge tax increase. There's no reason to do this at this time. I don't want to scare people away from Homer Glen. I want people to come to Homer Glen and invest in Homer Glen. And maybe they'll open up a business in Homer Glen. I don't know. But throwing another tax out there, especially right now with how things are going, I think this is like it was last year. I don't think it's necessary. And however somebody wants to spin it, it's a tax.
Trustee Steinman?
When a new home is built, and maybe somebody can help me out here, usually your tax bill is not, like you're not paying that full tax bill that first year you move in there, because it's based on the old, before the building was there. So, and they're already living there. I remember that when I moved in here.
For the
Somebody,
year prior.
huh?
Your tax bills for the year prior.
Right. So they're moving here for a year, and they're not paying that same bill.
But they're not paying it, but yet at the closing, the seller is paying the tax. So either way.
It's at a lower rate, because it's new
But
construction.
the school is still getting that tax money, that's what I'm trying to say. They're still getting the tax money.
And they're gonna need it.
And then when that person sells that house, the person that's buying it doesn't pay it, the person that was in it pays it. So it trickles down, it doesn't.
There was no house there before. It was vacant
It
land.
still doesn't justify putting the tax on there, in my opinion. I still think no matter which way it tries to be spun, it is a tax. And we're overtaxed already. And I don't think we're losing anything by voting this down.
Janie? Sorry. Do you have comparables from other towns?
In 2017, we did study, we had comparables from us.
17, 6 years ago?
2017, yes.
We don't have anything
This was
more
not,
updated?
this did not generate a comparative study of what's going on in other towns.
Lockport, well, I think for the fair market value, Lockport's, we have Lockport's ordinance right here, right?
Right,
Is that
but,
what I'm looking at?
No, you're looking at the Board of Education's resolution.
yeah.
And it was, and what they did is they had the appraisals from the feeder elementary school districts for each, 33C and 92, each did an appraisal. They feed into 205. 205 looked at it and said, this is for each school district respectively, this is the fair market value based on the appraisal that we did. And just to clarify, this is a one-time charge, so it's not something that ends up you'll never see it on your property tax bill per se.
I personally see both sides, because it is a one-time, but it stops, like when I built my house, I had to pay those fees individually.
Right.
And seeing that big number was a sticker shock, and looking at the increase is even bigger now. But I do understand by paying those fees for new development, it does help the current residents
lower, not lower, but stabilize theirs.
So I guess one way of looking at this too would be if, okay, so if development impact fees are not used or they're not made relevant with fair market value, the school costs don't go down, for instance, right? So as enrollment increases or the projections increase for future enrollment and they are doing their capital planning and budgeting for future, they look to see what are we going to need? And then they are going to look to see how are we going to raise that? And that could ultimately come back and impact property tax bills.
Madam President, could I make a comment?
I was just going to, I saw you have your hand up, I just want to give everyone a chance.
Respectively, you know, these school boards, all three of them in our districts, have increased their tax levies for the past 4 years. And those for a fact. This past December, two of them was over 7%, one was at 7.55%, and then the other was 6.14%. So the school boards have increased their tax levies religiously for the past 4 years. I don't know about since 2017, but this also resembles, you know, you call it an impact tax, but you know, we know it's going to be passed to the consumer. It's going to make it more expensive for somebody to buy here in Homer Glen. We've kind of been gearing towards trying to bring in seniors, you know, that wouldn't have kids going into their school districts, so that they're left paying, again, an increase in taxes, you know, or increase in fees due to school districts when they don't get to take advantage of them. But it reminds me of, like, when you give the impact fee of taxing residents that leave the state or leave a community. You know, Burbank does that. There's a little tag, you know, price tag at the end. And I look at that like a punishment. So you're punishing people for coming into Homer Glen because what, our fair market value has gone up. So no, this is, like I'm saying, I wanted it on the record just how much the school districts have been increasing the tax levy and increasing our property taxes for 4 years in a row. So that's all I have to say.
I think just to be clear, we're not removing the tax that's already there, we're just not increasing it. So I think that wasn't discussed, I think it was important to say.
Are there any final closing
Nothing else
comments?
from me.
Just that's the park fee that's in there, and the cost of the parkland has probably gone up in 6 years. So that fee that's you're impacting on that is making up for the difference when you want to go build a new park. And that new subdivision that comes in, you're going to be paying more, and that impact fee is being appropriate for the price increases of
But
property.
we don't have a park district, so we don't have a tax line item on our tax bill that actually contributes to the park fund.
That park fee goes into the park fund.
No, I'm talking about from the developers, yes, but we don't have on our real estate tax bill. Like the schools, like he said, 70-something% of our tax bill now is the schools. But we don't have a line item on our real estate tax bill that shows any money going to the schools. So I can understand where the developer or somebody is going to pay something towards the parks because they're going to be utilizing the parks and there is no funding source other than the gas tax.
But this is how they pay for it, right? This is how they pay for it.
This and the gas tax.
Huh?
This and
Right, and the gas tax, but this is the developer's fee that he's paying for that subdivision that's coming in.
No, I
And you're building a park,
I
and that's how that's calculated.
No, I understand that part of it, but what I'm saying is
One
that
time.
the schools are still getting money regardless. They're getting money regardless. They are the biggest portion of our tax bill.
70 to 75%.
Yeah, it's up to 75%, but yet we don't have a line item on our tax bill that funds our parks.
I know that.
It's the schools that are asking for this, not.
No, isn't this
This affects the fair market value in this section of the ordinance. It would impact all.
It impacts all of our,
All of
whether
them.
it's fire, schools, or parks, it impacts all of them, because this is what we're saying, an acre of land costs within the village. So when we go and ask that developer for a park, their park fee, we're gonna base it on $80,000 instead of $100,000.
Correct.
This is my point.
Is there any closing comments?
I
I think what Rose was trying to say is there's not a line item, so they can't pull it out and use it just for parks. That the school district, fire district, and everybody else that's involved in this also, as I believe was you were trying to
Right,
say.
that's exactly right.
Yeah, I still look at it as a one-time impact fee, is what I think it is, and, you know, bottom line, it all dribbles down and it goes back to the residents, and I know my taxes are astronomical.
Can we call?
I agree, the school taxes are a bit much. Okay, Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
No.
Trustee Styling?
Aye. Motion fails. Moving on to item 8. Consider for approval ordinance number 23-041, an ordinance amending Homer Glen Village Code Section 10-5 and 10-9 relating to standing committees and amending standard operating procedure number 001. Is there a motion?
I so moved.
Is there a second? Yeah.
Second.
Okay, so I was going to say, because I was not aware, was this tabled?
Now is the time to table it.
Okay, so
We have a motion to approve. it.
right, so I know you guys made the first second, I just wanted to say something. I did not request for this to be on here because I haven't had a chance to talk to each committee member to make sure that the SOP is the way your committees would like to see it. I wanted feedback from each of you, so I did ask that it not be on the agenda, but it is here. So I knew I wasn't going to be here, asked for it to be tabled. I wasn't here to know if it was tabled or not, so I wasn't sure.
All right, so then I'll make a motion to rescind my
Motion to approve.
motion to approve
Motion to table.
and motion to table.
So we are now voting on motion to table.
First by,
So moved.
Is that okay with all of you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Styling?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Motion carries. Thank you, guys. I'll send you guys an email on that one. Moving on to 9, consider for approval ordinance number 23-035, which is amendment to the ordinance 21-035, regulating the use of off-road motor vehicles in the village of Homer Glen.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Consolino. I think everybody on this board knows where I stand on this.
What's that?
I think everybody on this board knows where I stand on this.
So, a little background, I'll let Joe speak in a second to this effect, because now I'm out of the loop, but a lot of work was done on this ATV ordinance. There was also a lot of resistance that was taken into consideration, and so a lot of the verbiage was changed. We also mimicked a lot of what New Lennox's ordinances, thanks to Lieutenant Taylor on that one, and so we were looking to do permits for golf carts, because it seems to be a huge desire by our community. And we also lessened the fines, so unless anything has changed, I'll give to Joe, give to Trustee Mason.
Well, let me go through each of the trustees first.
Trustee Fields, you said Jennifer, or
No, I-
Trustee Consolino, were you done? Yes. For the time being, I wish I'll say the second, then I will go around.
That's what you're saying.
Trustee Fields.
I think this is a great thing here. I don't see that the verbiage was removed from the ATV portion of it. The fines still exist. As Lieutenant Taylor spoke earlier, those fines are still intact. What we've done here, though, is change the thing for the golf cart operation, which there are several communities that are doing this, and we're kind of just falling in line. It looks like Posen was the last village board to now make their golf carts legal in Posen. I was just in Monique for a fest that they had out there, and they've got golf carts out there. So what this did is set the parameters for allowing golf cart vehicles to travel within our town. And I think this is really one of the, I've been asked about this for quite some time. And it's taken a long time to get here because it's a combination of things between the ATV and the golf cart. I think moving in this direction, giving something back to our community finally, that our community has been asking for, is a great thing to do here. we're falling in line with many other communities that are doing the same thing. If we then pass this and we find that some things aren't working in regards to this, we can always come back into it and amend it to make it fit for what might or might not be happening. But this does require a permit, and it has to pass this. It has to go through a safety test. So I think we're heading in the right direction with coming up for something for our residents that a lot of our residents have been asking for, and I'm happy to support this.
Trustee Reinders?
I'm definitely for it, but the only thing that I would say is, just from the experience that I had with the parade, driving the golf cart around town, people were so rude and so ignorant that were behind me in the golf cart. I mean, they were flipping me off, swearing at me, telling me to get off the road. I mean, I was like, oh my God. So all I'm saying is that be prepared for what's going to be coming once we start driving around town with golf carts. That's all I have to say.
Trustee Costello and Trustee Simon?
Yeah, I just had a couple things. The waiver, is that something that would hold up in court? Like when it says it's a signed waiver and release of claims against the village, does that really have anything? I mean, is there any?
Tell me what page you're looking at.
I'm sorry, on page 4 or 6. And this was very confusing supplement, by the way. I was like,
I can explain this.
Okay.
So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages is the new ordinance. The one that's on page, it's not numbered, but page 7, which starts.
It's the original ordinance.
It's the original, the 21-035.
so when it's all in red is the...
Yes.
So, no, the last pages are the ones, if I can finish. The last one is the one that was proposed, from what I understand, which Carmen explained today, was the one that was proposed by the previous attorney, Carrie Warback. So what happened was the one in the front is the one that attorney, I forgot her last name, Marissa, put together with what was provided by Carrie Horvath. Basically what she did was just take what he had, cleaned it up, her manager Morella cleaned up some verbiage and kind of shrunk it down. The fines are still in there, the fees are the same as requested, everything is pretty much the same, but because there was so much red, yellow, blue, crossouts, underlines, everything, we just put it all in one. So that's how
I'm just looking at the last 4 pages.
that is the one Carrie Horvath provided at Glen.
Okay, but Terry Horvath didn't work on anything to do with golf carts that I remember.
That is what I was told.
Yeah, this was the revision he gave us. Yeah. This was the revision that Harry gave us.
All in red in the back.
This one is ours.
And ours.
Okay, we jailed one here.
Okay.
And Marissa actually aligned this closer to the state of Illinois vehicle code also. So it aligns better with that. You know, we don't ever want to supersede the state, but we want to make it better, and that's what she did here.
Joe, didn't we follow pretty closely with the Illinois,
We did, yeah.
Ohio
We
state
did.
statutes? We really, this went back quite a lot.
The version that Carrie was working on, I don't the Illinois state, the code, state requirements, which is now in place in the vehicle code. Just also want to add, there were some changes to the use of these electric scooters and bikes and everything that are all around town now. Previously, we had prohibited those on sidewalks and streets. They're all over. I mean, they're so popular now. So what it does is it has language in there regarding bad driving and neglective driving and things like that with those types of vehicles.
Well, when it comes to the electric bikes, I think it's a state statute now that you can't make electric bikes illegal anyway. But that's not what we're voting on right now.
I was just saying it was changed also in there besides the golf cart portion.
People were concerned that their children wouldn't be able to ride their toys. So that's why we changed that.
Trustee Simon?
Okay, the other thing, So on page 4 of the beginning one, the one that should be before us, my first question was the signed waiver and release of claims against the village as well as an agreement to indemnify and hold harmless the village for any liability relating to operating a golf cart on village roadways. Is a waiver, does that really do anything, Attorney?
A waiver does not stop somebody from suing you, but it is an affirmative defense.
Okay. And then, okay, so, and then it's going to have a bumper sticker on it or something. I read that. I like that. That's on the back of the vehicle.
Do you want me to interrupt you, or do you want me to, you want to finish it?
Oh, and then I just have one more thing. What I would like to see is on, same page 4, item B on the last grouping where it says on public property including but not limited to sidewalks, school grounds, park property. Just if you could put trails in there.
That's me
or whoever. I would like that added because people just think that those trails are free to do whatever they want.
What page, what,
We're at 200, I think we're at.
Page 4 of the first section.
Right, if you look at this one here. 200. We're right here. It's on the first part, we're at 200B, and we're just going to add the word trails somewhere.
Because it may not be public. Well, if it's ComEd property, well, I think about the ComEd, we lease that, so is that considered public property? And those are our trails, but they're, I mean,
Our trails and there's ComEd property. Or separate.
Well, trails, right, trails.
I think trails are different than comment property.
okay, because those are our heroes trail.
Just
Is on ComEd property.
The question is for the lieutenant, does he enforce it? I mean, who's enforcing?
I mean, is it gonna matter?
Kind of ironic, Lieutenant Taylor and I have received numerous amount of emails recently and videos of people on these trails with motorized vehicles. And we just discussed today a way to monitor. Jeff, if you want to.
ComEd, we have a trespass agreement with ComEd, so there's no motorized vehicles allowed on that property, which Heroes Trail is on that. But I believe you guys passed an ordinance 2021, which gives us more power to enforce the ATV ordinance.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure that there isn't any, like, loophole that somebody gets out of. Well, it doesn't say trails.
This is pretty restrictive, so just let me, there will be no golf carts on Bell Road or 143rd or 159th or anything like that, so.
I believe what they're doing in some communities with their trails is they're making them a little wider where there's a lane for electric bikes and for golf carts, and then they got the walking path. So I mean, that might be down the road for us.
As he brings that up, I think that's something that we all need to consider in the future.
This isn't about the golf carts. This is, in the ordinance, this is related to off-road motor vehicles. It's not the golf carts, is it?
Right.
Or
It's all
everything
not permitted.
It's all combining.
The ATVs are not permitted unless they're on private property. Public property, we are only permitting the use of the golf, and they have to get registered, they have to be insured, they will have sticker permits, that will cost, what do we say, 25 a year?
It was 50 for the year.
Oh, we up to, oh, you guys up to, okay. So
And then 100 initial fee, one or the other. 50 for initial, I don't know, something like that. But to clarify your question, Sue, without reading it all again, there was one change that I remember, because in the one that Carrie had written up, he wanted a registration to have them in like their pocket or in their wallet or something, but we thought a sticker on the back to show that it was registered, so they know, so an officer can see it and say, oh yes, that one is registered, would be better. And then we asked for a slow moving vehicle triangle sticker on the back as well. Okay. Trustee Fialko, did you have something?
No, I mean, I guess just to add one thing to this whole, I mean, we always think how we can, and maybe one person is causing a problem with their ATV or their motorcycle. We do live in a rural area. I was the guy out there on my motorcycle when I was a kid, not ripping up property. We don't have kids here. If they're on their motorcycle or their little ATV and they're not causing a problem, they're not breaking into your house, they're not spray painting your fence, they're not taking and carjacking you. They're on their little motorcycle. So I think we just need to keep that in check. When we start thinking us big government needs to squish every part of the rural area that we live in. And I think that when it comes to enforcement, I know a lot of times it is a judgment call and to how somebody's reacting when they're questioning about what they're doing and that type of thing. But I think we need to keep that in mind that yes, we can as government, but is that always the smartest thing to do, to squash every little thing, every little freedom that somebody's got in a rural community where they got their fishing pole on their ATV and they're going to a pond? I mean, come on. Yeah, we're going to give them a $2,500 fine. It doesn't make sense. That would be all.
So are you saying you want ATVs or you
No,
don't?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's use some discretion when it comes to enforcing, you know, when we find somebody, if they're ripping up the park, yeah, they should be fined. But if we got somebody on their ATV or their motorcycle and they got their fishing pole and they're going to a pond, I mean, it's not the same thing. And like I said, again, with kids at a certain age, you have them, I have them.
I got them all ages.
Yeah, right. And so the thing is, we don't want these kids doing this. We don't want them to be in the basement all day playing on their devices. We want them to be, you know, out there playing sports and doing things and activities. And I know for some people that did not have kids that had these vehicles that didn't cause problems. I mean, sometimes it's hard to see it, especially if maybe your child had a motorcycle come close to them. But the thing is, we can't take and expect kids not to be kids. And to throw a $2,500 fine on a kid that's got a fishing pole on his motorcycle or his ATV, and he's going to a pond, just doesn't make sense to
So
me.
you can't pull people over with fishing poles?
They're going fishing, no.
What it comes down to, I think, is let's think about things with some discretion in our enforcement. I think that's all we're trying to say.
Just from any offense, from a business offense to a felony, we always use, you know, if we voluntary compliance is, we always use our discretion. So we don't like to hammer up the kids, but my main concern, just like everything, is balancing freedom and safety. So when you got kids flying up the trail and people are walking with dogs and little kids, it's just too dangerous. So that's my main concern, is just safety.
Understood.
Trustee Mason?
Well, I think Lieutenant Taylor said what I was going to say. We need rules, we need ordinances, and I know for civility, but at the same time, there's safety. We have to take care of that. But I'm sure every police department takes some discretion on what's transpiring before they decide on finding this kid $2,500. I think if you see somebody with a fishing pole, he's got two catfish on the back, you're telling him get straight home. I think if he's out here tearing up the park and doing donuts, I think you're giving him a $2,500 ticket.
Absolutely.
Trustee Renders? I think I went through everything, right? I had one question. I think the age was 18. I read this thing so many times and all of them, I can't remember which one was what. Is there a reason we chose 18 instead of 16?
Probably state law.
Okay, I was just curious. Okay. I'm excited. I've got a golf cart. Is that it? Anybody else?
Oh, I'm very done with the ordinance.
Jen, you want to go over it again? Want to table it? Do you want to table it? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye. Motion carries. Yay. Moving on to item 10, consider for approval of hosting, wait, did I skip something? No. Consider for approving the hosting of a community golf outing on Thursday, September 14, 2023 at Old Oak Country Club.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason. Trustee Reinders?
I actually have talked with Jacqueline at length about this, and Jacqueline, you're here, right? Oh, I sure am. Excited about this?
I am.
Hi. Hi.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on it?
Sure. So my department and I, since February, have been working on hosting a community golf outing here. Our main objective is to raise funds for our ability awareness and behavioral health committees to put back into the community. Yesterday, Chris went to the Ability Awareness Committee They talked about using funds that were raised for maybe a wheelchair swing at Heritage Park. We would like to attend the next behavioral health meeting to kind of talk to them about what they would like to do with the funds. We are trying to do more adult-oriented events here. A lot of our community events are oriented towards kids and families. If you look at Orland Park, Lamont, other communities, they have things for adults. Orland Park has Beer Fest, they have things. We do nothing really just for the adults here. So our thing is let's try to do stuff for mom and dad night out, community involvement, networking, and get more people involved without your kids.
So this motion is just to approve it because we have an existing ordinance that states you cannot host a village event off village grounds.
Correct.
So this motion is just to approve having it off our property.
Yes, and at Old Oak Country Club, which
So
is located in Homer Glen.
Right, so it's not, we're not motioning or voting on a budget or anything like that for this event, it's just to have it off-site.
Correct.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Trustee Mason, you made the second. Oh, Trustee Reinders, were you done?
No, I'm good.
Trustee Mason?
So I think, we did talk about this today, about getting all the businesses involved. Yes. And just make it a big community event.
Love it. Correct. You already had two reach out without it even being passed yet.
Yes, we've had a lot of people interested in this, and we have worked with Joe and Brett Westcott on this. We have taken a lot of consideration from other people on how to do this.
Nice. Trustee Stylen?
Well, I'm sure Joe Baker can give a lot of good guidance on this.
He has.
Golfer he is. I think there's just maybe a concern is that residents might have is, you know, how is the, when the ordinance is passed to come before the board for when something is off-site and not on public property is, you know, how is the organization or business benefiting from us having the event there? I mean, is there, and some people just might question that, that was all. So there's no contract or anything that says how much, you know, we're spending.
No, we're not signing a contract till it's approved, because I don't want to sign a contract and then you guys deny us having it there and now I'm stuck in a contract.
Yeah.
So if you approve it, we will have a contract with them, but until then, I'm not signing a contract.
Okay. Well, as far as that goes, I think it's a good idea. And the only other thing is, the village isn't really a fundraising vehicle, but if it's going to go for something in our parks, or to help our behavioral committee.
Well, yeah, that's why we want to put back into the community, and that's the goal of it, is to put back what we raise to the community, not put it in our budget.
Trustee Reinders? Oh, no, you already went. Trustee Hanselino?
No, I'm fine with it if we can change, you know, we'll wait till the other vote, but I have no problems with this.
Trustee Fialko?
I support this 100%.
I do have something, just so everybody knows, everyone knows I'm the chair of the Ability Awareness and Kurt is the chair of Behavioral Health. We did not solicit the events committee to do this. In fact, the Ability Awareness Committee was going to plan their own golf outing, but since they had stepped up and decided to do it, we have other events that we can do and take care of. So I want everyone to know this was not something that we had asked for.
No, and actually, my department started talking about this back in February. We originally met with them back in February for this. It just, Homerfest came up, we had other stuff, so.
No, so I just wanted to be very aware so that nobody thinks there's any favoritism.
Since I'm skipped.
Where you skipped? I'm having a rough day, so I apologize.
Seconded, no, I like it, I like the idea, and I like that, you know, it's going towards the implications of helping the budget on the addiction recovery and, you know, the ability awareness. Thank you very much, Jamie.
Of course.
Thank you to the committee, or the staff as well. All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Cancelino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. L11, consider for approval ordinance number 23-042, which is an amendment to an ordinance 17-002, regulating activities and maintenance in public right-of-ways located in the village of Homer Glen.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Trustee Cancelino? Trustee Fialko?
I just want to make sure we're looking at the same thing.
So again, I
We're
believe...
talking the last 4 pages. Looking at this, there's only one thing that I'd like to correct in here, and maybe Paul, you can help me out with this. And it has to do with page 6, section 6, permits. actually, what my intention would be is to remove the may require a permit under section 6, permits, and it would be in that third sentence in the middle, where it says it may require a permit.
Can you strike that?
Well, I'm asking, would there be a reason to leave that in there? Because this has caused confusion before, and either we're going to be, I mean, if I'm a homeowner, I can't read this and say, well, it may require a permit, what do I do, right? So either we strike it from there, and then it's got the permit in the bottom when it comes to these, to this.
I'm going to defer to Joe on this one.
I think that may have been put in there. We have landscaping there, and landscaping could be a potted plant that they want to put in the right of way. We have trees in the right of way, and people put their landscape stone in a couple plants. I recently got a request if a permit or they were allowed to do that. I can't see requiring a permit for somebody to put
The question would just be asked though, Joe. They would come in and say, okay, this is what I want to do, and then there wouldn't create confusion with somebody just doing something and then saying, well, it may not, I don't know, I just do it anyway. So I think this causes confusion, and I'll defer it back to legal.
Yeah.
When that's in there.
So I plan to put it at the end.
Of notification?
Yes, and striking the rest.
Okay, so I'd like to make the motion to remove on page 6, section 6 permits, in the third sentence in the middle, to take out may require a permit, and put a period after the word signs.
So you just made that motion, so we need a second.
I'll second that.
Was there any more changes? Or
No, we go through one at a
well,
time.
then we're gonna make a motion, vote, motion, vote, motion,
I
vote.
thought you just said you had one.
Well, I only had one, so I think she would think it's somebody else.
Maybe does anybody else?
No changes?
No.
All right, so that.
Wait, okay, I have questions.
But are we voting on the ordinance or just adding that in there?
Well, let's finish the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, just make it, just keep explaining.
So we have a first and a second to amend the ordinance before striking trustee Fialko's put out. So let's have discussion on that. But first and a second on the amendment.
I have no
Yes,
problem.
okay.
I have no problem, I'm sorry, did you have something?
So we need to call
No, we don't need to call for, we just need, any further discussion on
on the amendment.
On the amendment.
So can I get clarification, Trustee Fialko? You're saying strike may require and will require.
Right, I'm not going to say that, I didn't say the add will require, I just said put a period after signs.
Right.
And then strike may require permit, because may require just causes confusion. That's for the homeowner then to come to the village and not have that.
That's an incomplete sentence.
As well.
It's an incomplete sentence then. Because it says miscellaneous encroachments that include but are not limited to culverts, pillar mailboxes, retaining walls, landscaping, sprinkler systems, permanent neighborhood signs, and notification signs, and you want to add a period.
Because it's under permits. The permits, okay, miscellaneous and encroachments, that include. It's not an incomplete sentence if you put a period after signs, because it's under the title of permits. I just, the word may, the 4 words may require permit just causes confusion. I think to give clarity in removing that.
But then the next sentence, it says the permit acts as a written agreement.
And that's okay.
Well, but I think you need to put.
Then you need to add the word will.
Will require. Because then that
No,
finishes that
because Joe even
sentence.
said some of these don't.
Oh, true, because you're talking planters.
Right, some of them don't, so it would then bring the responsibility to the homeowner to come to the village to find out. But if you put may require, I would just do it and say, okay, well, it said it may require. It doesn't say I have to look into it.
It is under the title permits, so I think.
So we're taking out the word
I agree with you.
may require a permit, right? We're taking out all 4 words?
May require a permit.
Okay,
Period after signs, may require a permit.
okay. All right, my only question was, because there was confusion today after I spoke to a few different staff members. We currently we currently will repay a resident if we damage their mailbox up to $125. Is that correct?
This would be a different part of this though, but we're just talking about that amended part, right? And
No,
Paul said,
right,
let's talk
but-
about the amended part, and we'll vote on the amendment that I made, and then we can move on to the next
But
one.
what I was, my requesting was, what I was,
But I think there's no more changes. We have a first and a second on the amendment, and now we're just having a discussion on the ordinance. And we've
right,
already
because
discussed
that's,
on the
it doesn't make any sense to make a change, then vote, make a change and then vote.
Actually, okay,
She said,
let's roll.
Probably won't be any other changes, I just have clarification questions. Okay, so I was told today that we will replace up to $125 per mailbox, is that correct?
That's correct. Correct.
So currently, in the last 2 years, we have not hit any brick mailboxes, correct?
That is also correct.
And if we did, we would give them $125?
The way I understand it.
That was the practice under the road district.
That's right, I used to.
That was the practice under the road district. But since the village has taken it over, we haven't had any brick ones to do that. But in the past, when they did hit one and damage it, they paid up to $125. Anything beyond that was the homeowner's expense.
Okay. Does this ordinance change that? Does this ordinance now say that we won't pay $125 for a brick mailbox?
The way I understand the ordinance to be.
Yes.
If it's on a wooden stick, if it's on the 4x4 and it gets damaged, then we would. But brick pillar, the pillar, no.
Okay, wait, this is the confusion part, so if you give me just a
Oh,
second.
you can help me out.
In the past, if we did, let's just say we hit a brick mailbox last year, we would give them up to $125 for a brick mailbox.
Correct.
See, I thought it was opposite, I thought it was no.
This removes that, though,
So
in
this,
ordinance.
now this will remove it for new mailboxes, existing brick mailboxes. Now we're taking away something from something that already exists.
I don't see anything in here that takes it away.
And that was the next part.
It sounds like it sounds like
That's my point, and that's why I'm
Why
confused.
is it an informal policy? Because it's not in this policy. So where did it come from, the dollar amount? It was informal, right?
Yes, from the.
Yes, an informal policy from the road district.
Okay, so informal policy, so what is our formal policy, or informal policy with if someone was to build a brick mailbox tomorrow and we hit it, what happens? Would we pay them up to $125 or would we not?
No, the way this is written, it's no.
So now we're taking that away from
They never
existing.
had it.
No, they did.
No.
Yes, they did, is what he's saying.
The wooden mailboxes did, but the brick mailboxes never had, they got hit and destroyed, made them take them down. Once it got
That's how
compromised.
I understood it, but today, as I spoke to staff, I was told, no, we did repay them, so I just want clarification. And even just trustee Constantino said she doesn't want to take that away. So I just want clarification for the board. It's an informal policy, it's not in the ordinance, but I think we should have it said.
That's fine with me.
Yeah,
If they want
so-
to keep it at 145 for either.
It's 125.
125, whatever it would be, that's okay with me. It doesn't happen that often.
And the resident is picking up the majority of the bill, they all need a brick mailbox, so then that's their, but at least we'll give them a portion.
So it sounds like the policy that's in place is still in place, and this ordinance doesn't take anything away.
Okay, so if we do hit a brick mailbox, we will still give them up to 125. We are no longer making them take it down. Good there?
Maybe you put that up somewhere on the website.
I think it needs to go
Somewhere,
somewhere.
it needs to go somewhere.
All right, then maybe we should have a motion to table this ordinance. I'll draft some language, add it in there, we'll bring it.
I have a few.
I'd rather not
She's got a few
table.
more questions, hang on.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just for clarity, because this is what's been happening. I spoke to the post office, the postmaster of the Romeoville post office. He was supposed to give me information about brick mailboxes. He said they are actually illegal to have. They do not like them, but I did talk to mayors of 4 other towns. They do allow brick mailboxes, but they do not give money if they hit a brick mailbox. So to just throw something else in there, I don't care which way we go, I just think I don't want to take away something from something that we already had, even existent.
Right,
Well, maybe we should just clarify it, maybe table it and clarify it, and then have all this language put in there so that it's actually clear if this happens.
And then the last clarification, I'm sorry, one more, last clarification, is the other towns actually have staff that go around and take photos and mailboxes that are currently in violation. So for an example, if a brick mailbox, or if
wooden mailboxes slanting into the street during winter months, or it's a not so desirable falling apart mailbox, and we damage it, you know, what do? Do we take pictures ahead of time and say, well, hey, your mailbox was in violation, you're like, well, how is this process? We just automatically write checks for $125, what happens?
I also would like to get some language.
So if I want to get a new mailbox, I just stick it on the street?
How they're getting billed, what restrictions on size, something like that I think needs to be added. Because if we're permanent, we gotta know what we are approving and what we're not gonna approve. I could have a 6-foot wide brick mailbox right away. I have some concerns there of how size limitations.
I agree, because you could have an 8-foot mailbox 5 foot wide with a
Well,
little
that's
box
why
in the center.
the ordinance says that it has to have a building permit to first $50, and that's for Joe to go out there and to make that improvement, or to approve that. And the second part of the ordinance is there. That makes sense. As far as adding the verbiage to make it so it says that $145 replacement. $125 replacement fee, we can do that right now and not have to come back to this. I can make that motion to include it in whatever section, Paul, you would think would be acceptable.
Well, before we start throwing motions around, I want to make sure I know what we're saying. Are we allowing for brick mailboxes? Because from what I understand, our current, whatever, unwritten rule says if it's a brick mailbox, we hit it. We used to make them take it down. But then I was told we actually give them $125 if we mess it up. So which way are we going? Are we saying no more reimbursement?
No.
Or are we saying take it down?
No, what we're saying is they're okay now.
And we'll give you $125 if we hit
We'll
it?
only give you up to $125
Okay.
for any little damage that may have been done. Anything past that is the responsibility of the homeowner. And a lot of people have asked for this. I mean, you told me who has one.
My parents have one. They've had one since
So, and it's
1989.
beautiful.
It's still there.
When you look at them, it beautifies our area and everything else. Paul, if you could give us some help as to where to add that verbiage into here as an amendment to say that $125 will cover brick or post mailboxes if damaged by the village. That we could do that right now instead of wasting time and coming back and going through legal
and attorney fees.
Yeah, attorney fees. So, why don't you help me out with making? Where would you like me to make the motion at to add that verbiage?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm a little hesitant to shoot from the hip, but, you know, I guess what I'm trying to think through is, if we're going to formalize it, I don't want to just say, okay, I think it goes to both, how do we know we did it? And what proof we're going to require for that?
Yeah.
And then how you get reimbursed. Because I could come in any day and say.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And so I don't think we can just say, hey, if you got a damaged mailbox, you come in and get it fixed and get it built.
Well,
We're going to have something.
That would come from Public Works would make the notification.
They've read a report that they did.
And those would be the only ones that
But
be.
what happens when?
You get blamed for it.
What about if the post office damages it and they don't know it? Because this is the other question. They were saying, we don't have to post
What if
that.
they hit your car? I mean, you can split that hair all day
What
long.
I'm saying is, Public Works employee accidentally damages it, doesn't know he did it, doesn't fill out the accident report. Guy comes out in the morning and says, there's a big pile of snow on my mailbox, and my mailbox is damaged.
Okay, but it could happen with anything. With
But
your
I guess
car,
my point is-
with the mailbox that's there now.
Well, my point is, Dan, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, we have to be thoughtful in saying, what type of proof are we going to require to show that the damage to the mailbox was caused by the village?
Okay.
And that's what I'd like to look at. I mean, I'm not trying to.
That's why I was saying.
I'd like to be a little more thoughtful about this.
Other
But if you guys want me to
towns.
just come up with a fee and plug it in?
No, what we could add under a motion is that only accidents reported by the Public Works Department while in the line of their duties will be reimbursed at the cost of $125.
I think we gotta be careful, because like,
They reported that.
Yeah, and like the mayor just stated, what happens when it's your neighbor? What happens when it's the postal worker? What happens when it's UPS, FedEx? And they blame it on the bill, on $125.
For right now, could we just go forward possibly with, I just want the consistency of that. We are going to permit the brick mailboxes for everyone, like what I was unhappy about was that it was grandfathered for these guys, but then these guys are.
There's another alternative. It's not snow season. What we do is pass the ordinance, give me a week or two, and I'll pick another ordinance that adds the parts of it.
That sounds fair.
At the cheapest rate possible.
Right, and I will circulate it.
Pro bono.
Pro bono. Yay, I heard it.
Pro bono.
Mr. O'Reilly, hold here now. What I was trying to say is, let's concentrate on this. Maybe we could come up with another policy to put on with the village, separately, saying, if this happens, and we could change it accordingly because.
You can easily write an SOP.
Thank you.
Very easily write an
Yes.
And what's the direction of the
Yes.
village is.
We could create an SOP at a different point about the procedure. What do you think, Brett? So if there is an accident, how it's designated and fees.
Yeah, I suggested the Carmen said was having an SOP, first of all, determining the dollar amount and not putting the dollar amount actually in the ordinance, putting
Yes.
reimbursement at the rate.
I don't feel that the ordinance needs to have that dollar amount in there.
I thought for some reason there was, unless I was reading.
And the thing that supports that, Trustee Castellino, is the way it is written up right now. It's not in the ordinance with the fee. It's done like almost kind of like an SOP, but not. It's just that they're on this thing. Right? So I think, Paul, I'd like to take your advice and move forward with that.
What time and date?
Mark it down.
Hold on.
Although I don't know if anybody else has any other input.
I'm fine, I thought I read that somewhere, I swear.
We still have the motion to remove those 4 words out of that one.
I think we can give a motion to approve the ordinance before us as amended, and then we vote on that.
I'll make that motion.
No, we have that motion, no, we just have to vote on it. And then what I'll do is work with Carmen and staff and Joe to bring something back in the future that kind of clears up what we talked about if there's damage done by the village, how that will work.
Okay, thank you. So we need to remove.
It's good to see you.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've just been waiting my turn. This is just for mailboxes. This is not for pillars that are added into Parkway. Just mailboxes, right?
That's right.
Okay.
What is, let me understand your question.
Well, sometimes people put a pillar on one side of the driveway and they put a pillar on the other side, and I think that's decorative, and it's not, it shouldn't be a pillar. Nothing else should be in the right of way, in my opinion, unless it needs to be in the right of way. So,
This says pillar mailboxes.
I know, no. Some people put like a decorative light pillar.
Another pillar to match the mailbox on the other side of the driveway.
Yes.
Is that considered landscaping?
No, I wouldn't consider that landscaping, that's not vegetation. I'm just,
So a lot of people in my subdivision have pillars, but they have them at the bottom of their stairs, not out at the curb.
right,
So.
it's not in the right of way.
Exactly.
So I
get what you're saying.
So we're just talking about mailboxes.
In my subdivision, some just have the decorative pillars, they're both at the end of the driveway, some have it with, and it's so scattered, there's no rhyme or reason or consistency.
I mean, a person needs a mailbox. And so you're interfering with, you put something in a parkway. That water mains break, the utilities need to work, you're planting trees, somebody needs to redo a driveway, they need to do curbs again, and you've got something that's just about right at the edge of the curb that's going to get torn up. That I think you should have the least amount of things in the parkway as possible. And so I just,
I just want consistency for those that have had it for how many decades, and.
Well, I mean, they're grandfathered in.
They're grandfathered, but I don't think it's fair then for the ones that come in and are like, and they live 2 doors down next door, well, I want one. And that was my argument on it, is that.
Well, but at some point, you look at safety. I mean, we're gonna, these are outlawed in several states. They are, a lot of towns, just as many towns that allow them, do not allow them. So, you know, so we're going back on the safety issue a little bit. We're giving away here. So, and even in the post office, it says avoid unyielding and potentially dangerous supports like heavy metal pipes, concrete posts, and farm equipment. So even the post office doesn't like them. So why are we going to add additional, like, pillars and things that don't belong on the parkway?
This is just about mailboxes at this point. It's not about.
That's what I'm clarifying.
It's about both. And the thing is, to add that view here, Sue, there's people that have mailboxes that are leaning into the street right now.
Yes.
That I know. And that's a safety hazard.
Right.
That hasn't been fixed in a long time. The thing is, with these pillars, we just had curbs replaced in our neighborhood, and there was no problem with the people that redid the curbs. The people in this community have asked for these pillars to be able to be approved by Joe Baber first and get the permit for it to do so because it beautifies our neighborhood. It doesn't take away from our neighborhood. In safety, you park your car on the street, right? Well, if somebody hits your car, that's unsafe, right? Well, no, you're not supposed to hit the pillar. It's not the idea. So it comes to the person that's either in the vehicle or otherwise. It's not a safety issue. It's a beautification issue of our community. And our residents have asked for this time and time again. I started working on this over a year and 6 months ago, and we just finally got to this point. So it would include the pillars at the end of the driveway, 2 or 1, as a landscaping item, and to include the mailbox at the height and requirements of the post office. So that would be part of it. And I don't see a problem with it. I think our community does deserve it. Some of the nicest communities in surrounding areas have these things. And the way I drove down the street, I took about 20 pictures of all different mailboxes. And there's some pretty nice ones out there. And then there's some that are leaning into the street that look like they're about 70 years old. So the thing is, we even have a dolphin mailbox in our subdivision. So, and then these people, the next thing, I don't even want to mention that, but nevertheless, the thing is, this is something for, this is only really the second thing we're doing for our community and giving back to our neighbors. When we first got here about 29 years ago, before this was a village in 2001, everybody was saying, if we become a village, they're going to come up with all these crazy ass rules that are going to tell people they can't do things every time they turn it around. And this is kind of one of those things. It's beautifying our neighborhoods for the people that want to invest the money in our community to make it look better. And I can go down the street and tell you 20 mailboxes on a 4x4 post that look ridiculous and are falling into the street compared to the beautiful pillars that are out there that are in the parkway and that beautify our community.
Trustee Castellano?
No, I've been there for a little bit. Thank you, Trustee Castellano. I think we need to table it because you seem very passionate about this, and I think we have to have the right wording and we have to have a consensus going. And yes, I think it should be in uniform. You seem very, very passionate, Dan. I want our village to be beautiful as well, but at the same time, maybe we need to put it to the side, table it for now, and look at it and come to a consensus before we waste everybody's time.
There's no reason to table it.
No, Mr. Portfolio raised his hand.
The Homer Township Highway Department has a regulation for parkways, so I'll just like to, this is what it is right now until the ordinance is enacted. The Highway Department has low-speed roads and high-speed roads. I think there's a speed limit in the ordinance, 25 and 30 miles an hour, so anything under 25 miles an hour, Trustee Stylen hit the nail right on the head. You don't want anything that's not a breakaway device in that 5 to 10 foot buffer on the side of the road because it's liability is what it is. Yielding, that's anything with a wooden post. If it's a breakaway, same with light posts. You want that within 5 to 10 feet of the roadway. Anything like the Rock of Gibraltar, those brick mailboxes that they build, that's bad for speeds over 30. That's a liability issue and a safety issue. So that's the way that we see it. And a lot of times, plows and people from the public works or the road district would hit a mailbox and break a mailbox, and the 125 is based on the standard at the time. And that's where that came from. But only if it was a road district employee that hit it, and there was proof that we would pay it. And that's kind of the way that the road district does it.
That speed limit was built into this, so it's under 25 miles an hour.
Yeah, under 25 you can stuff because it's not as much of a liability based on speed.
So thank you.
When you get to 30, it's a problem. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woods, are you in agreement to that?
With what? Oh, absolutely.
Okay, Madam Clerk, is that call the roll? I think we discussed that enough. Wait, what are we voting on?
We're voting on the motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
And then
Moving it forward.
Okay.
And that's it. Then we're done.
Yep.
and then we're voting on the motion.
As amended. All right, so let's vote on
We
the
got two
amendment.
things to do.
So moved.
Are we ready?
No.
We just need to
We already have a
vote.
motion second on the
Madam
amendment.
Clerk,
So vote on the
please
amendment.
call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Reigers.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
No.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So now we need a motion to approve this as amended.
So moved. We already have that.
We just need to do the roll.
We just need
Yeah,
roll
roll
call.
call, yes.
Roll call.
To approve the ordinance.
Trustee Stylen.
I'm sorry, honey, I got mixed up. For the ordinance, no.
Switch your notes. Correct. Okay, so we'll go back to that. All right. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Reigers.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Public lands.
All right, old business, TRIA.
No, could you please call
What?
Mr. Commissioner Portfolio? He's waited patiently for us.
Oh, I thought it was under new business, not old.
Correct.
Old business about the clay.
Ah, Brent Woods, you had something first.
So I actually just wanted, when Mr. Attorney works on the revisions to this ordinance, if I can be included as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if he's doing a revision as much as like Carmen suggested an SOP, but between the three, you should be able to come up with that.
Okay,
We'll have a meeting and then we'll discuss it.
well, Brent, I know you've been waiting for a while, so we'll put you under old business.
I'm here till the end, so.
You are? Oh, how fun, welcome. Okay. TRIA, under old business, TRIA. Mr. Attorney O'Grady, would you like to give us your update?
Right, so I was asked at the last meeting, Mayor, asked at the last meeting to make a full line on the TRIA contract, and the seminal question was whether or not the village owns the plans. And so, generally speaking, the 2015 Master Agreement grants a non-exclusive license to use the plans for constructions, but the license is conditional and terminates if the village has failed to substantially perform, quote unquote, or failed to, quote unquote, materially comply with its obligation under the 2015 agreement. There's nothing that we understand that I've heard, or read, or seen that says that we failed to substantially perform, or we didn't materially comply. Therefore, the village has a right under the agreement in 2015 with TRIA to use a license agreement to use the plans for construction in the mayor's report.
Does that clarify everyone's question from earlier meetings?
And then subsequently, so that was my first part. Then the second part was, for clarification, what I was suggesting was, I would write a letter over to TRIA to clarify our understanding and to, and ask that they agree with it and that we can move forward with either A, without them, or B, with them, right? And then give them, and then ask them for a letter back that they're in agreement with us. And that would clearly clear up if they think that there was something that we failed to substantially perform or that we didn't materially comply with, that would be her opportunity to tell us. If they write back and say, no, you're right, then we can just move forward.
Would that hold up in court?
Yes. So I mean, if he's in agreement with it, we put it in, yes.
To summarize.
Not to worry about.
To summarize, what you're saying is, from what you've read, that we don't have to use TRIA to continue with any part of the design. We own the design. And we can move forward with that design with or without TRIA, and without a substantial cost coming from TRIA, whether we go one way or the other, that they don't charge us their percentage on any part of the work done by a contractor we hire in any part of that process.
Was that a question?
It was.
It was rather long and compounded, but
several classes.
Let me just kind of go back to what I said. Was that we have a license to use the plans, right? If we choose, right? So those are ours. Right? And the agreement, but I didn't go on to say is that my understanding is that we can use the plans with or without TRIA. And that's your question.
Correct.
And that's what I'm going to write to TRIA and say, here's my interpretation of the contract. Do you agree? And if you don't, you have to explain to me why. And then I will send that letter by Friday, and then I will report back at the next meeting.
And your interpretation of the contract is going to say that
That's what I read.
we understand that we don't have to use you for this project, or we can. Either way, we're not paying you a fee for whoever we use for oversight. That's the big question, is the oversight part.
That's it then, it's,
Yes, I will add that.
Trustee Fielko, yes.
But according to
Unless we hire.
But prior to this, over a year ago, and that's why I submitted the emails to the entire board, we were informed by TRIA, but not Mr. Pedrakis himself, that we did not own those plans and that we had to use him specifically for oversight if we wanted to use those plans.
Which he's saying that didn't happen, but they're saying it did, so.
I thought there was a second, just so I can just, for a second. And it's legalese. They probably do own the plans. We have a license to use the plans. So we're, just to be clear. So when somebody says they own the plans, yes, they do own the plans, but they have licensed us to use the plans, right? So, we could mission nash these words.
We talked about the copyright infringement. That was my biggest concern, was the copyright infringement, because they did tell us at that time that they were copyrighted.
They are copyrighted, they own the plans, but we have been licensed to use them, which is a legal term that we have now. We don't own them, but we can use them.
I just want to know what we can use in court.
Got it.
That's where we stand. Okay.
May I just add one thing to the TRIA thing, because we didn't have a final number. I had the numbers run and the amount spent in TRIA architecture so far from all the way 11/11/15 all the way to May 5th of 2022 was $1,051,767.
That also includes the construction of this building, remodeling of this building, just a heads up on that? Yes, it does. I ran the numbers too, and you pulled just.
Yeah, it does include renovations.
Yes, it does. So when you want to break it down to what the park is only, that's a different number.
Renovation.
But when you pull.
It's still part of the thing. So
Right, but when
we
you
didn't
do
have a
the
number
same thing for
last time.
HR Green, which is close to $3 million, I mean, you can pull all these different vendors and numbers go up and down.
I guess my biggest bone of contention with all of this with TRIA is the fact that we have our own in-house engineers. He got up here and he started saying that, oh, you're gonna have to get electrical drawings, you're gonna have to get engineer drawings, you're gonna have to get lighting, you're gonna have to do this, you're gonna have to do that. No, we don't have to do that because we have that in-house. We have an in-house engineer, and part of that bid for the Veterans Memorial included all the engineer drawings, all the electrical drawings. It included all of that. So he was not being truthful when he said that it did not consider that. And the other thing was is that going back to all of these things that have happened in the park, we had in-house people that could have oversaw every single thing that was going on here. And yet we paid an oversight fee for every single thing that they did. And they're basically an architectural firm. And we paid them to do a bidding process for us. And in that bidding process, they actually charge those contractors an additional fee for them doing the bid process. So I mean, it seems like the money that they were making was more than what was really necessary.
I have a question.
I'm not denying that, yep.
So you're saying that they billed us for oversight and they billed the actual company that was hired? So you're saying they double billed, it's illegal, it's double dipping, you can't bill two parties for the same work?
Any contractor that they hired, any contractor that they hired, they were getting a percentage of that contract.
From us, not from them.
They were billing us, not the person.
Okay, that's what I was hearing conflict there.
No, that's what they were doing.
If we're hiring somebody to do oversight, you gotta pay them for it. If we do have our own engineers, and you want them to do the oversight, then you don't pay for that piece. If you have your own.
Exactly.
Wait, I just want to step in for a second. You did state that we had engineers to do oversight. At that time when this came forward, the engineer we currently had did not want to. He actually requested not to do it.
Well,
Just to clarify.
I was told that the reason that he left this village is because he was not consulted on all of these projects that Trio was doing here. That was part of the reason why he left.
I believe everyone was told something different on why he left. So, I don't want to go into that, but let's go back to Trio. But there's a lot of history there. I'm not saying use them. We had a great conversation today. Or was it history? I can't remember, but we had a great conversation. We're gonna take it back to the parks, come up with something, feedback.
I'm not saying that.
Moving forward.
I'm not saying use them, not use them. I'm saying let's move forward, let's figure it out. It'd be a waste to have all that money spent on TRIA and not do and utilize what we've been licensed to do, what we've been licensed to do. They may own it, they may, and I don't want to squabble about who owns it and who don't. He came to the podium, he stated that we have the right to use these. It's set up for out here. We have the, I don't want to say infrastructure, but we have the wiring, we have the plumbing, we have the things that we need right here. Plus, a lot of other things make sense. I think we're recreating the wheel continuously.
Part of the things that you have to understand though, Trustee Mason, was that a lot of the things that Tria did in this park had to be redone.
Yes.
A lot of work, grading, the bathrooms.
Cost us more money.
Yes.
That wasn't actually TRIA, that was a contractor that came in. But we can go into, you guys can watch the videos back in the day, it's 5-7 years ago.
So it's just a matter of preference. Yes, did they draw up the master plan for the park? Is it a great master plan? It's a good master plan, but we don't have to follow it to the letter. We can actually look at it and envision what we want to do with the parks for today and what works for the park for today and for our budget.
All right. Mr. Westhead.
Just to clarify and to address, TRIA is an architecture firm. And architecture is different from civil engineering, from structural engineering, from all these electric and all these things. So you can see on their plan sets that they have for the master plan for the Heritage Park and so on and so forth, it shows different engineer of record or, X amount of record or whoever, and it has all these different firms listed to it. So it's just important to know that we have these plans to use, the licensed plans to use. These are just architecture plans. It is essentially just a concept. So if there's grading to be done, if there's storm sewer to be installed, if there's foundations to be installed, you know what I mean? These shop drawings, these stamps, these things, they still need to go through an engineering process, right? An architecture stamp is not a licensed professional engineer stamp. So an architect stamping off on grading plans and stuff like that is not a civil engineering stamp. And that's what our code requires, licensed professional engineering stamps or structural engineering stamps.
You'd have to do that with anything. So
well, yes.
TRIA, not TRIA, whoever it may be.
Right. Yes and no, yeah. But in this aspect, right, we have a license to use the concept plans. So you can very easily take those, hand them over, right, say this is what we're looking for, and then they will solve the rest of it. So.
My questions were the purpose allegedly for his PowerPoint presentation that we sat here for an hour and a half and listened to was
It was 40 minutes.
but it ended up being longer because of conversation.
So, I stand corrected on some things that I had said previously where it said, he said it was 10% oversight fee, I had said 20%, but when you go through the AIA B101 agreement, there are places in sections that say, unless the project authorization authorizes more, which is possible on any of those plans or phases that were on the drawings. I was not comfortable with the fact that he sat there and said, well, I wasn't a no-bid contract, but he really was. And he claimed that, the reason he wasn't no bid was because, well, the state statute says, you didn't have to put it up for bid. So that's what he started off with as well. He claimed he only got $67,000 out of the village of Homer Glen when we asked him how much have you made from us, for all this. And it ended up being over $1 million. Yes, it did include this building on top of that. But there were a lot of, you want to say, where he was just tweaking, and picking and choosing the information that he was going to provide for us. I didn't feel like it was completely honest. And, I'm glad that we have the lawyer's interpretation on this. I'm glad that we have a plan of what we're going to do, and I would feel much more confident in using those plans. We would have done it over a year ago had we not been lied to. So I would feel confident if we choose to use them going forward. But it's still, regardless if we use them or not, it was going to cost so much more money in the grand scheme, and I'd rather keep those opinions to myself instead of beating a dead horse with the Veterans Memorial. But I did not like that at the end, when I cut him off, he was attempting to sell his plan again for the memorial. And that's when I stepped in and I said I wasn't going to listen to this anymore because he then was going to do his side-by-side comparison of both plans. And that just bad business practice, and we shouldn't have allowed for that. So I'm glad that we stopped it at that point. So that's all I have to say.
Trustee Mason, do you have anything else to add? Trustee Steiner? No? Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Reiners? No. Okay. That discussion is now over. Did anybody have anything else for old business? I know Brent Portfolio is for new. Is there anything else for old? No? Okay.
Under old business, still under old business. Something came up about Will County roads at 159th and Bell Road. And on June 15, 2023, they came up with a sister agreement where they pay for 50% of the sidewalks now. And when this thing came up, the design for this back in, before I was on this board, the design came through for 159th, as far as I understand, in Bell, down on the south end. Now at 143rd and Bell, that went through this board, and we had discussion and we added sidewalks. But now we have a 50-50 share on that, and we have this opportunity to save this money. I don't know how this board feels, or if we can direct Carmen to move forward with this, or...
I think we need to get some clarification on that too, so, because it's not just 50-50.
Okay, but nevertheless, the point of my conversation is there's an opportunity here, and to get clarification so we're not missing out on something, saving money for the village with 50-50 or 30-40, whatever it would be. The discussion that I had is they already started the project. We can't, I don't think we can do anything. I don't think it's too late to do a scope change. Scope changes are done all the time. And even if we weren't able to do a scope change, we could take and we could add this on to the end of the project and just have it be like stage 2 of the project. So that is what I'd like to have us kind of take a look at and see where we'd be at. Brent, you were saying you had some update to that though?
Yes. So that was resolution 23-179 for Will County, and what that does.
What was the number on it again?
23-179. And it is titled Establishing Cost Participation Policy for Bicycle and Pedestrian Facilities Associated with Will County Department of Transportation Reconstruction Projects. And it's essentially a 3-part resolution. There's 3 scenarios. The first scenario is that there is an existing sidewalk, which exists currently, and it is impacted by a county construction project. At that point, the county will reimburse 100% to the village to repair and replace that sidewalk as part of that project. If there is an existing sidewalk and it is disturbed or removed during the project, it will be replaced and the county will bear 100% of the cost. If there is an area where there is a development and there is not an existing sidewalk, the county will do a 50-50 split between themselves and the village in an area that already has a development and does not have an existing sidewalk. And then the third and last part of this is if there's an area where there is no development and there is no sidewalk, that is 100% cost on the village to install the sidewalk there. It is there because generally speaking, what would happen in that case is if there's a vacant parcel with no development and no sidewalk, that cost would be borne by the developer. The sidewalk would be installed by the developer.
Okay, so when we're at 159th and Bell, what category do you think that they would fall into at this point, not knowing where the sidewalk would be going exactly?
So that would be, there's kind of multiple things to that. So for the Bell Road widening from 159th to 151st Street, they are installing a new sidewalk along the outer portion of the subdivision from Meadowview Lane to Woodland Drive, outside of that noise wall on the west side of the road. South of that, there is some established developments. On the east side of the road, there's established developments. There's some strip malls. There's, I think, a car repair shop and some odds and ends. You have the megaplex out there, but there's also large sections of land that are not developed in between some of those things. So my suggestion for that would be not to necessarily go for the 50-50 split of county and village in some of these areas where they do have the development but no sidewalk, but to instead try to incorporate that to a master bike trail plan or something that we can involve ITEP with. ITEP offers rounds of funding that's an 80-20 split, which is more favorable for the village, and then that gives you, instead of just a 5-foot concrete sidewalk, you get maybe an 8 or a 10-foot HMA multi-use path. And they have those funding cycles, I think, every couple of years, like 2 years, every 2 years. So we just signed up for one recently, and then the next one will be in 2024 or 2025. I think 2024.
But that last option doesn't parallel with Will County's project, is what you're saying?
No, it would be a separate project.
So with Will County's project, you're saying that you don't think that we have any options to put any portions of sidewalks in?
I think we can have the negotiations with Will County, but I think given that these projects were let and bid and that it's moved forward and we're in like to the construction into phase 3 at this point, I don't know if this still would apply to that, to go back and say, you need to split this 50-50 with us because you just passed this resolution now. It's certainly a conversation that we can have with them and we can discuss that with them. But if that wasn't put into the design and the initial comments and stuff like that, we're asking for a lot more than just putting a sidewalk. There's a lot more that goes into it than just putting a sidewalk there, which I'm sure you guys can understand.
Can you be able to give us an update on that at the next meeting?
Absolutely.
Is that enough time?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mr. Westcott, there was, I received notifications about grant funding sometimes that I've sent to Gia. There's a new type of alliance that I was considering joining, and it talks about grant opportunity funding when it involves safe travel to schools. So I'm going to look into that as well and send that to you, because I think that, because you have Hadley, you have 2 schools on that same route right there. I wonder if there's stuff that we could also pursue for grant funding for that, because they're really trying to promote the walkability, ride your bike for all these communities, and more communities extremely rural. I think that would be appropriate. So I would definitely sign up for their alliance.
Agreed.
The only comment I have on the sidewalks is more or less for the residents. If we're going to rally up other residents to contact and email and phone call the village and the officials, that maybe we should, get a little bit more background on it first before we rally up residents to do so. Any more comments on that? No. Okay. Any other old business? New business? Mr.
Old business, Glen.
No, he's under new business.
New business.
Okay, let's start with Brent.
Okay.
Okay, we're bringing you back up because
Before I get to the clay, I wanted to say something to the village attorney quick. Having been a PE for 30 years, the person that owns the plans is the user agency, not the engineering company. And the reason for that is for what Trustee Mason says, is so there's no double dipping. And they go back to another client and resell the plans. So you guys own the plans, you have jurisdiction, not them. And when there's oversight during construction, you usually want to go with another firm than the designer for checks and balances. It's very important. So when somebody insists on that, try to do that. But something that I've seen before is the construction manager will give a little piece of the pie to the Phase 2 designer in case there's RFIs and things like that. They got to be understood and reviewed before construction. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Just to try it out.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
so
Now, Trantina.
So a couple things to mention here. The standard of care when you're taking clay from a borrow site is different depending on where you're taking the borrow from. So if you're at a brownfield or a greenfield site, they do massive testing for everything you can think under the sun. When you're borrowing from a pre-developed site, like Laguna Woods, which is a subdivision, all of that massive testing was done prior to that being constructed. So the standard of care that we're following is for a subdivision as the borrow area. So hazardous waste was tested for, unsuitables were tested for, things like timber and glass and things like that, and unsuitables and compressible soils like organics as well. So that's what was tested for at Laguna Woods.
Can I ask for one clarification? Because there's some people that say contaminants, and then there's unsuitables. A piece of pipe and some asphalt groundings would be unsuitable, not a contaminant, correct?
Contaminants are more in the hazardous waste category. Unsuitables are something that's unsuitable to be used as construction fill, which is compressible, like stuff like timber and things like that are compressible, where you'll get settlement in your platform.
So a piece of pipe that would be in there or a piece of asphalt of some kind would not be considered a contaminant, it would be an unsuitable.
Yes, but they also, so that's why I follow the book on everything. So that's why I've never been in court in 35 years in any of my projects. But you got to understand the standard of care of the industry when you're following what I'm doing. The field testing that I'm doing is not even required as a standard of care, but I'm doing it anyways. And the third step for checks and balances, which is going to be a thorough geotechnical investigation, because Trantina Farm has never really been developed per se. It's an old farm. So what's going to be tested for at Trantina is not only the stuff that was tested for Laguna by someone else, but it's also for all things like leachate. This could be diesel oil, it can be gasoline, it could be flammables, it can be anything you can think of that's going to be tested for Trantina. Because underground storage tanks could be under there. We don't know what the farmer had there. We have no clue. So the Trantina site will be treated as a virgin ground. So the testing there before the community center is built is going to be done pretty thoroughly.
Okay.
So that's kind of, I follow the standard of care and everything.
If I may,
over and above, actually.
I'm just going to step in here because I believe this all got started off on a bad foot. So for the new board members, and I don't want to speak for the older board members because I don't know what they were made aware of. The new board members were not aware of anything that was taking place. We weren't notified of a permit. We weren't notified of what any plans were. We were just told that a permit was issued for Trantina Farm and that loads of dirt were coming in.
Yep.
So to be all fair and honest, I don't think that was fair to our village board members to not be aware of what's going on.
It was discussed at township meetings.
I understand.
It was put up in newsletters, but I understand.
I understand.
So
and then when a meeting was held and we asked, typically when a developer comes in, we ask what their plan is, right? What all their plans are for the property. We heard, and we know, I knew, that a building was going up. How come that wasn't, I'm not asking you questions, I'm just giving you an understanding of where the confusion is coming from. We were not understanding why you didn't have to, the township didn't have to provide full plans on a building or what the plan was for development. I did meet with our engineer and he did explain it was a way to save money for the township. It was a win-win to save money.
Yes.
We understood that. But We weren't provided with anything that said any samples, any so on this. We were only told that exactly what Fialco said, that the first delivery had pipes, asphalts, and other items.
Yes.
And it wasn't.
Yes, I saw that.
Right. So you gotta understand this side of things, right? So
yes.
It's not that we want everything to stop, we just want to be informed of what's going on. And I was told if he put a stop to it and said, nope, you gotta bring us better stuff.
Yep.
You know, and then there was a question of clay and soil and all this was going back and forth. We were told it was coming from a subdivision development. We didn't, which is kind of a loose term for, you know, a development of, from what I understand now, is more of like a sidewalk and curb breakup or road breakup or something along those lines. So it really wasn't for like a new development coming in, it was for a redo of a project, so, which explains the pipe and the asphalt. That's where the confusion is coming from my personal experience, is I just had questions on the whys.
So I'll keep going a little bit to help you out. I was not able to make the Monday Township meeting, but I believe at that meeting they announced the first public hearing and public town meeting on this development is next month. And there will be a presentation of where we're at right now. That's going to talk about what the layout looks like. And it's obviously, we're trying to save as much money as possible. We're trying to get grant money. We're trying to get, eventually we'll try to reach out to the community and try to get sponsorships and things like that. So there's no plans developed yet, obviously. No engineering has been started. The site plan has been developed, and that's all we have. And that's what I based my permit on. I sent to the village engineer, is where the building is supposed to always be. And that's where we're putting the clay to save money. As far as how many parking lots we have, if they're going to be stone or asphalt or whatever we can afford, that's down the road. We're just trying to save money on the clay pad for the building.
So Brett, you talk about unsuitables and a piece of pipe or a piece of asphalt. It's a lot more than a piece of pipe or a piece of asphalt, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty, and you don't want to say contaminants because it wasn't leaching, it wasn't diesel fuel, it wasn't gasoline, whatever the case may be. But unsuitables was a lot more.
There's like half a tree that was out there.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
Every week I went out there after they dumped.
Right.
You know, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff I saw out there.
Exactly. And so this road that's being tore up that we're accepting, and I hate to phrase it this way, we're taking somebody else's bill, garbage.
Yeah, they're widening and putting in curb and gutter and sewer, and all the excavating in the clay areas they're taking over to Trantina. And what happened was the trucking companies that took all the other stuff weren't told to go to the other site. They all just went to the same one, not just the clay ones. That was the issue, and that was straightened out. It was supposed to be straightened out at the beginning of the project, but the trucking company didn't get the memo.
And so how do we clean that up then?
We cleaned it up because I talked with the
Okay, because that was my thing. If you're taking somebody's street, if you're taking their subdivision, basically, you know, Ellen's Gate, I don't care. Pick one. Pick a subdivision. You clean that street, you strip the top off of that, and then you have all the asphalt and all the oil that does go into that asphalt. I know there's a certain level that's unsuitable versus contaminated, but that was a perception that we're taking it, and they're dumping. And when they're dumping, they pay to dump, don't they usually?
They usually have to take it to a CCDD dump, which is clean construction demolition debris. Brett knows about this. And they pay a minor fee to dump at that clean landfill. If it's not clean, they have to spend a whole hell of a lot of money to dump it somewhere else.
That's what I'm getting at. And I hope this is not the case. We're not taking a pristine farm and dumping a bunch of undesirable materials all over this farm, and they're not paying. They're paying some low-cost amount because it's really not what we want.
Correct.
And they're getting away with not paying a much larger fee, and we're contaminating our own grounds.
Correct.
Well, I think it's been clarified that it isn't contaminated. It's been tested how many different times?
Correct. Like I had said, some of the trucking people, they just didn't get the memo, and they accidentally went to our site, and that was corrected.
In your efforts to save money for the township and for the village, you've always found different ways to do that. I've had several different experiences with working with you. You're very easy to work with. Your communication communication is always open, your phone line is always open. The thing is, to pay for that, it was referred to as taking somebody's garbage. I look at it at how much would that have cost the taxpayers if you were to pay for that by the yard. I mean, you're making sure it's clean, you're having it installed, it's not costing the taxpayers any money, and you're making sure it's clean. So I understand the garbage part of it, but having a pipe or asphalt, and you clean that up though, and that kind of stuff.
That was corrected immediately, yes.
But how much would that have cost you had you had to go out and pay?
Well, if you want to borrow clay, it's probably anywhere from $30 to $40 a cubic yard. They're paying us $20 a truckload to dump on our site. So they're paying us actually.
So Bell Road's being cleaned up right now too, right? And then, so we're taking Cook County, and I don't want to say it this way either, but we're taking Cook County because it's coming from Orland, so we're taking their road. We have a road right here in Homer Glen that's being turned over and dumped somewhere. We're paying to dump ours somewhere else, or Will County is. It's just confusing for me that we would take somebody's road, and I get what you're saying. You're saying that more of it.
Not every contractor will do what this one is doing. That's the issue. Having been in this industry for a long time, I know a lot of grading contractors, and most of them would laugh at me if I said, "Are you going to pay me to dump on my site?" They'll say, "What? I'm not going to do that." And they do the topsoil stripping, which is also a savings of about 15 to 20 cubic yard, and we're in the thousands of cubic yards. So we're saving money, but not all contractors will do that. The one that's doing Bell Road wouldn't do that.
Your savings, you're figuring you're saving millions of dollars or just hundreds of thousands?
$250,000 is if we get 5,000 yards. We're about a third of the way there. They're about halfway through their project. They ran into some kind of issue with the phasing of the project they're borrowing from. So they're delayed a little bit, but still they're trying to get it all done within the next couple of months before we talk about starting breaking ground for the building. Or whatever that's
we're saving money for the taxpayers.
Yep.
But I think what the mayor was saying, I think communication, I've never had a problem with communication with you or your staff or your office, Brent. I think if we try communicating before we put stuff on or read stuff on Facebook, communicating with our leaders who are in charge and taking care of things, that'll clear up miscommunication.
Every month I give an update at the township meeting. It's in the minutes, it's in the agenda. I go to great lengths to be detailed with everything I talk about. So if you want to know what's going on with transition.
Rarely have you never gotten back to me, and I thank you for that. So I think if we keep in mind as a board, communication is the key to success and to not work off of rumors, just work with the facts.
Trustee Rogers.
So just to clarify for everybody and to clarify for anybody that is watching this video, you basically were not aware that those trucks were dumping the unfavorables in your claim.
Nope.
But they are no longer doing that.
Nope.
And you did clean it all up.
I had to come into Jesus meeting with the contractor.
Okay.
But I have one question in regards to that, because
there was fines if they would have kept doing it. And they had to remove it, not us.
I think the biggest concern here is this affecting our environment? You know, is what was done or what's being brought in, does that affect the environment?
No, it doesn't, and that's why we filed for a village permit. Brett did a good job reviewing it and helping us put together a SWIP plan, which is an erosion control plan, to make sure that the drainage is being filtered before it gets down to the creek. All the silt is filtered out, and the drainage patterns are not changed where you send it to a private property. We don't want to do that. Everything flows north the way it's supposed to, and it's filtered, and it's good. And actually, yesterday I think I saw the contractor out there cleaning the lot as well, because you had mentioned something about that. And
I'm on top of them out there.
Yes.
Brett does a lot. To the point where it's annoying. I'm sending erosion control reports, things need to be repaired, things need to be addressed, the parking lot needs to be cleaned. We don't slack on these things. It does follow proper erosion control protocol. There is silt fence around it. I've requested for them to put additional silt fence around it to provide an added layer of protection. You know, there's no fill in the floodplain. There's no fill or impact to any wetlands in this area. It's just stripping of topsoil and stockpiling of clay in this area. And like I said, the erosion control is up to snuff, and I go out there probably weekly and especially after heavy rainfall events to make sure that they're abiding by all the things that they've submitted for the permit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for your responses yesterday before our environment committee, and then thank you for attending tonight.
All right. Any more new business?
I just wanted to make a mention, I'm going to be canceling August's Homerfest meeting. I don't know if anybody worried about that or not, but I'm going to be canceling meeting.
I had one item that I wanted to bring up that we kind of just briefly touched on when we were talking about the ATV ordinance, and I've discussed this with Melissa in the past. I would really like us to entertain the idea of looking into widening our trails. And what I'm seeing in other suburbs is that, you know, if we're going to have golf carts, I've seen in Lennox and I think in Frankfurt, where they have these widened trails, they're painted lines, so you have 4 motorized vehicles on one side, walkers, pets on the other. They have, or it's just a few subdivisions. I mean, eventually, I'd like to give credit to Russell Mack for this. Like, his vision for our community was to have interconnecting trails, you know, to each and every subdivision. I think that's something that would connect, the connectivity. There's so much grant funding out there for these walkability, connectivity. I would really like us, and I don't know if that's something, would you want to pick a committee for that to go to discuss? Or is this something that we could kind of discuss amongst ourselves with the board? Or, you know, when you're talking about quality of life for your committee, Sue. But this is what my vision for home.
I think it kind of touches all of these, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but you asked me a question.
Well, that's fine,
I think it kind of touches every single one, except maybe Fest.
I would think.
Because it's parks, it's environment, it's public safety, it's community, it's ability awareness.
It kind of also seems the direction that we're going, when you're thinking about how we're expanding and plans, and you know, we're not really probably going to be entertaining the town center for, if we do, for how many years. I think this is something else that we should also start looking into, and like I said, there's so much grant funding for this type of stuff. Now we have people who are also looking at possibly hiring in the future for grant funding. Yeah. So I think, you know, what we just touched upon, possibly widening lanes, this would help with a lot of the other issues that we're concerned about with motorized vehicles and toys.
And Carmen, can you give us an update on where we're at with hiring a grant? Right.
We're still reviewing the job description, or a few concerns we have with it, so.
Okay. But we are still, I mean, that's good news for the village. That's something we desperately need as a grant writer. So I know that you're putting together all the job specifications.
And actually, we discussed kind of putting in a few different RFPs together for different positions that we were looking into, and we were gonna kind of throw them by you guys and see what your thoughts are on each one.
Gia, what's the number that we're at right now with the grant funding just over the past year?
It was
Secured.
Yeah, secured.
Secured.
Applied for over 7 million and secured were around 2.5 million.
And how much we actually received?
She said 2.5.
Well,
No, it's
it's not in
different.
yet. It's not
Okay.
in yet. One of them is a reimbursement, so as we do the work, we submit ours, goes to them and they pay it. Other ones, they're still, we've got the awardment letter, whatever you call it, but there's a lot of still, it's not easy, it's not the easy.
We know.
Yeah, you have to meet all these check marks to.
How much do we actually have in hand?
0.
Yeah, that's where I'm going.
And that's for this year. But last year, how much did we get?
Because there was questions on a park, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, I don't know.
Okay. I feel like the amount of money that we could possibly apply for, if you have somebody solely, whether they're part-time or full-time, focused on that, and then that frees them up for even more. I think it's a win-win situation that we should consider for a hire.
Trustee Councilman, I 100% agree with you.
I think everybody's like, when? Now? Tomorrow? Can we get a grant?
So they do have an RFP drafted up, I reviewed it, I got some questions. I want to submit my little questions and then give it all to you guys. That's, probably have that done tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, anything else for new business? No more new business, okay. Workshop, if we don't have anything, I asked Trey to stay home till we figured some other things out amongst ourselves. Executive session. Are we making a motion to go into executive session?
probably should, because we've been waiting a long time, and we don't have that much to go.
Can we take a 5-minute break so
Yes,
I can make a phone
I was
call?
gonna ask that. But do you have to take us out of regular session and put us in the?
So, I just want to make sure we have somebody presenting on this, because Leanna's not here to present on it.
I can talk a little bit about the, but I have personnel stuff I want to
Did
discuss.
you turn off, did you turn off the?
She-
So we
Stop
can-
it when we started.
Already now?
So
Just now? We're still in right now. But that's okay. That's okay.
We need a motion to go to executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, we're gonna take just a 5-minute break. So then I